Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Today we'll have Megan and Madison's annual extended family trip. That's coming up on this episode 467 of WDW Prep To Go. Hello and welcome to WDW Prep To Go, where we talk strategy and ideas and have lots and lots of trip reports or people planning their Disney World trip. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 467. Today is an interview with Megan and a little bit for Madison. Madison's her daughter. And this is a group family trip that they go on every single year, which I love. I love that they have everybody on board for this group thing and they can all look forward to. And there's lots of different interesting logistics, a combo of driving and flying, fitting in lots of different golfing activities, different ways to do Disney World trips. That's what we're always trying to represent here, because although I have a certain way that I do my trips, I am not the only perspective that is worth listening to. So I love having all these different kinds of guests and styles of trips so that you can kind of pick things up as you go. And I think this one is going to offer you a lot of that. I also wanted to mention here in the intro, because usually I will talk about Patreon in the last 30 seconds in the outro, because we have after chats that are posted there. But we just had some recent people join and be like, wow, I didn't know you had all this content over here. And if you aren't listening to the last 30 seconds, then you probably would miss all of that. So I wanted to put that here at the top. We do have lots of content going up on Patreon all the time. Sometimes it's 4 or 5 days a week. It is video versions of the podcast. It's after chats. It's a weekly chat that Heather and I record. It is patron chats where I interview patrons and we just talk about their lives in Disney and non-Disney, stuff. So just lots of stuff going on over there. And we have a private Facebook group. We have close friends on Instagram. During the trips that we take to Disney World, we do meetups in person. A lot of things going on. So feel free to join us. Without any further ado, here were my chats with Megan and Madison. Welcome to the podcast, Megan and Madison.
Thanks so much for having us. We're glad to be here.
All right. And Megan, you are a mom?
Yes.
And Madison, how old are you?
I'm 10.
10. Okay. And I understand you guys are headed to Disney World.
We are heading to Disney World.
When are you going?
We leave Friday morning.
Which is what, May?
Friday, May 30th.
May 30th. And then through what date?
We will be getting back on Saturday, June 7th.
Okay. And does this trip happen to coincide with school being out?
School is out. Yeah, we're excited. School's out for the summer.
Yeah. For some of us, the schools are out, but in some parts of the country, they're still in for a little while.
It's part of the reason our family, we do this trip the first week of June every year. It's part of the reason we really like to go during this week. It's like it doesn't get terribly busy summer crowds yet. And still not unbearable weather-wise either. So we find it to work out pretty well.
Last year was bad, though.
Last year was very hot.
Yes, there has been some hot temperatures this May, but I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you guys. So you said this is every year you go. So obviously you've been multiple times.
Yes.
And who all is going on this trip?
So this group, we do this trip every year with the family. So it's my side of the family. So myself and my husband, Madison, and then our 9-year-old son, Jackson, as well. And then we travel with my brother and his wife. And then they have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old also, Emma and Matthew. And then my mom comes as well. So we've got grandma on the trip also. So 9 total.
Okay. So it's always your family, your brother's family, and your mom.
Yes.
And you guys do it every year. It's a tradition?
It's a tradition every year the same week. It's just the planned vacation. We've been doing it for probably like 8 or 9 years now in a row.
What a fun tradition. And Madison's the oldest of the kids.
Yeah.
So the most experienced of the kid group.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm excited to hear how this goes because that's fun. There's a lot of dynamics to consider, but you guys are pros, so you know what you're doing. Okay, so how are you getting to Orlando?
So some of us are flying. So on Friday morning, myself and my sister-in-law Monica will be flying with the four kids. We will leave and fly Friday. We have a 7:50 flight out of O'Hare. And then my mom is taking a later flight. And then the dads are both driving their respective cars down because we really like to have a car. We like to have cars on property while we're down there, and squeezing 9 people into one van doesn't quite work. So they're both driving down. So they'll be heading down. They'll be both leaving Friday and they'll be getting in on Saturday.
Okay, so you're gonna have flights, cars, or so many different aspects. There is always a point during the pre-trips where I understand why you were chosen. And it's always for interesting dynamics. We try to make it unique and we're already there. So you are flying from O'Hare to Orlando, and then where are you going after that?
And so we'll be arriving in Friday night. We have just for one night for us a room at Kidani, at Animal Kingdom Lodge Kidani on Friday night. So we'll be headed straight into there.
And are the dads going to be there by then?
They will not. So the Friday is just the moms, grandma, and the kids for Friday night. And then the dads will be arriving kind of early to late morning on Saturday.
Okay. Just the moms and the kids. And what kind of accommodation do you have at Kidani?
We have a 2 bedroom at Kidani.
Okay. And are you DVC owners or did you rent points? How did that work?
We are DVC owners.
Okay. And are you DVC owners or is everybody DVC owners?
So we all the adults and my mom, we all share our DVC ownership amongst the 5 adults.
Okay. A whole group
The whole
contract.
group. Yeah, we have multiple contracts that have kind of been added up over the years as we've continued to enjoy the vacations and want to add on more, which is not an uncommon thing.
Yes. Yeah, I imagine. And you guys really can make use of those bigger accommodations with this kind of a group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So how are you getting to Kidani from the airport?
We're using car service for
Okay.
that.
Private car service to Kidani. And then do you have any other plans on this day?
We don't right now. We're thinking we're probably just gonna relax at the pool. Part of the reason that we did Kidani on this day is because we like the pool at Kidani. It's really fun, right?
Yeah.
The kids like it. It's got a lot of play spaces and stuff. And so more just we were able to get really reasonable flights. Originally we were all going to drive, but the prices on flights were just kind of hard to pass up at that point. And so we decided to head down early, and we thought it would just be fun to hang out at that pool for a day.
I just planned a Instagram post that I will probably go up while you're gone, but it's about the best like play areas and splash pads, and Kidani is our number one.
Yeah.
It's so big.
Yeah.
Okay,
What's your
so
favorite part about it?
That is big.
That it's big. That's perfect.
it has, if I remember correctly, it has 3 different play areas, shade, lounge chairs, like
Mhm.
a lot of good elements. So that'll be a fun pool time for your day.
Absolutely.
Okay, so anything else before we go on to Saturday?
No, Friday hopefully should just be pretty even keel and easy day for us. So it'll be good.
Okay, so what's your plan on Saturday, May 31st?
So Saturday we move to Animal Kingdom Jambo House, and we have a 3 bedroom villa at Animal Kingdom that we'll all be moving into for that side of things. And for that day, we're going to take advantage of the water park option for your check-in day. And so we are going to Blizzard Beach, and we haven't done this before, but we booked a cabana. They're called the Polar Patios. So we booked one of those to have as well for that trip, for that day.
Okay, and what was the process of booking? Was that challenging or was it easy to get?
Oh no, it was actually surprisingly easy to get. I didn't even do it at whatever the like booking day was. It was kind of we were tossing it around. We were talking about which one we wanted to go to, and we had done Moonlight Magic, which is like a DVC member benefit at Typhoon Lagoon. So we've kind of all been there a couple times, but I've never been. I don't think anybody in our group has been to Blizzard Beach before. So this will be our first Blizzard Beach. So we kind of just decided we would do that one. And it probably was about, I want to say only 3 or 4 weeks ago that I was like, I'll check and see if we can get a cabana, and we were able to do it. And so I just did it like through the app or on my phone. It's pretty seamless. And it showed right away in my My Disney experience. I didn't have to add a confirmation number or anything. It was really nice.
It's one of my favorite things about groups is imagining what you can do to take advantage. Like a cabana is really fun, or a tour if everyone was on it or whatever. And so that's really fun. And it's your first time.
Yeah, we normally try to find 1 or 2 things that we are doing that's a completely new and unique experience that, at least somebody in the group, usually it's a lot of us, have never done before. And so this is our kind of one of the things we've got for this trip for that.
Do you think if the tickets weren't free as an on-site guest, you would make time for a water park?
We would not.
Okay.
I mean, no doubt about it. We've never done the water parks before. We've been, but the pools are just so good.
Yes.
We never feel like there's a need for the water parks. And maybe as all the kids get older, but with Madison being the oldest one, some of those slides and stuff like that, I think we're not probably at the age where everyone's taking full advantage of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
There
But
I like some of them. There was one where you just shoot down at the Typhoon Lagoon, and I just didn't really like that. I don't really like that one.
Yeah.
well, I would be curious if anybody in your group does the straight down drop at Blizzard Beach, because that one's super intense.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Probably not. Maybe we'll get the dads to do it somehow.
Yeah, maybe you'll let us know. Okay, what else do you have planned on this Saturday?
So then the only other thing we have is we have dinner at Boma that night. So we were trying to just make it a really relaxing, easy day. Check-in isn't till 4, but the 3 bedrooms we know are never ready at 4, so they're always ready a little bit later. So we're really planning on just being at the water park from 10 to 5 and then coming back and doing a quick change, hopefully. We've got dinner right around 6 o'clock at Boma that night.
When do you anticipate the dads will arrive?
We're thinking probably around 10. It's a little bit interesting because my husband will be leaving right away in the morning, and then my brother is working half a day and leaving a little bit later. We both live in the same town, so we're both like driving out of the Chicagoland area. And so they may sync up and share a hotel room, and my brother might drop in like after my husband's already in there, but they're really going to play it by ear. And so I feel like we'll be knowing more like Saturday morning what the timeline is for everybody. But I know like my husband's trying to aim to get in right around 10 o'clock as well, like when we'd be heading over to Blizzard Beach.
Okay. And are they driving straight through?
But my husband's definitely planning on stopping and sleeping overnight.
Oh no, you just said hotels, so
he
clearly
does not like to be groggy, and that's my brother's more of a wild card. Sometimes he likes to just power through, get in
Right.
at 3 in the morning, and then take a nap and sleep in the car or whatever. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. I'm fascinated. I'm not a road trip person, so I'm always fascinated by the logistics of people that do these long drives.
Yeah.
Okay. Sunday, June 1st.
So Sunday, June 1st, we will be going to Epcot, and we have breakfast at Garden Grill at 9 o'clock in the morning. So a fairly decent breakfast time. And then we have some lightning lanes that we have booked up. We have lightning lanes and the lightning lane single pass. We have the multi-pass and then also the single pass for Guardians that we have kind of scheduled during the day. And then for dinner, Madison's very excited. What do we have for dinner?
The Princess Storybook dining at, I don't know how to
At the Asker House. Yeah.
Asker House Royal Banquet Hall.
What time is that dinner reservation?
5:25.
Okay. And have you ever dined there? It's Akershus.
Thank you. That's helpful. We have not. So that's another first. We've never dined there. We've done Garden Grill before, but we have not done the.
It was closed for a long time, so it was kind of hard to do that. So that will be fun. Okay, so I had to ask the logistics of booking lightning lanes and dining reservations for a group. Were you in charge of that? Do you split up the responsibilities?
So we do split up the dining. We generally so my sister-in-law and I, we'll kind of talk ahead of time about any, we'll kind of we'll talk with the group about any particular things that people want to try or restaurants we want to make sure we get to. And so in this case, kind of on that day, on the day that we were able to make dining reservations, I booked Boma and then something later on, and then she did more of these intermediate. I don't feel like any of the places that we're doing for this trip are particularly highly sought after ones, except for maybe our breakfast on Friday. And so I felt like it was pretty easy for us to be able to do the booking. We were up early in the morning, but it wasn't like we were like jumping in right in. And then because we have a group of 9, we know some places you can book 9 and it works out fine. Like Boma, you can possibly get a reservation 9. Some of them you can do. But for the most part, we generally do one group of 5 and one group of 4. And then we just make sure that we're using the My Disney experiences from 2 people with the same last name. Our experience from doing this is that we have fairly unique enough last names that when they see those reservations, if they're within like 10 or 15 minutes, they almost just assume that we're all going to be together. But we do try to have one of us pop over there about 10 or 15 minutes before our reservation, also to just kind of check in with the table host and let them know our intent is to be together. And I would say, in my experience, 90% of the time, we all end up at one table together.
Okay. I know it's tricky. I mean, anytime you have the bigger your group, the harder it is. So
Yeah.
I'm just always curious how that works out.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on Sunday, June 1st before we move to Monday?
No, I think we'll just be kind of popping through and seeing how this is our first time, obviously, with the new multi-pass, bouncing through with things. We don't always do lightning lanes and stuff like that, but my mom this year was like, I'm covering that for everybody for the trip. She was like, I don't want to wait in line. So that was really great for her. She did that for us. And so that was fantastic. Makes it easier for all of us on this.
I will be curious how you like the system compared to Genie Plus, because there are pros and cons. Some people like the old one, some people like the new one.
Yeah, the one thing I do, being able to have at least something set in advance and not having to wake up the morning of, as we talk about in the next couple of days here, we're early risers, do things in the mornings. And so I always felt it was very inconvenient to have to be logging in and booking and like racing to try to get things. It just was very stressful. And so I'm very excited, at least for that part, to not be on the table anymore.
Yes. It's not such a wild card thing. And I remember for Genie Plus also, sometimes it was about booking it on the bus, booking it while walking into a park. I wish I knew what I was going to be doing today.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, Monday, June 2nd.
Okay, so the other part that I think is unique that we do that not everybody does is we are golfers. Our family is all golfers. And so we are all bringing our clubs down with us, and we do this each year. And so on Monday, June 12th, the dads are golfing at Magnolia, which is on property. And so they'll be doing that. They have a 6:30 tee time, which is the first tee time of the day, that just the 2 of them will be for that first one there.
So when you were talking about the dads driving the cars down, I was actually going to ask if there was if you're weighing out like renting cars versus driving, why the driving works out better for you. But is it partially because of the golf clubs?
It is partially, it's so much easier for them to take all the luggage and the golf clubs. Like I said, normally we would actually all drive. Like we'd be my mom would still fly, but the families would caravan down. That's what we've done historically. And if we were able to get flights down for less than $80 a person. And so it was a pretty thing where you're like, oh, the moms will go a little bougie and step out and do some flights. But so logistically, we always do that. My husband doesn't prefer to fly. He just prefers to drive, and just the convenience of that. So to be honest, we didn't actually even price out if renting would have made more sense at that point in time. I think just with the varying times that people want to leave and the autonomy of everyone having their cars and stuff, I think we're just used to doing it that way. And so it's kind of just the factor in. But 100%, they're taking down all the luggage, including my mom's luggage. They'll have all of that stuff. And then they bring all the clubs for all the adults. We do bring them down with us.
So the $80 flights, what airline is that?
We are flying Spirit down.
And so one of the perks of driving would also be you don't have to worry about their strict luggage rules and prices and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
just go. I flew Spirit once, and the lady that sat next to me, she had 2 homes. And so she flew Spirit in between them because she had all her stuff at both locations. And
Yeah.
I can go back and forth as much as I want because it's not that expensive and I don't have to take my stuff. And I
Yeah.
thought, if I ever had 2 homes, I will keep that in mind.
I guess one of the things we also talked about is that we have an owner's locker. We actually have 2 owner's lockers that we use for some of those. We don't use it for clothes. I know some families use it for like clothes and stuff, and they just put all their like park clothes in there. We use it though primarily for, we have a set of toothbrushes and toothpaste, so we use a lot of the toiletry stuff in there. We keep like bubble wands and umbrellas and all of that stuff in there so that if we need all that, we're not having to buy it new or worry about packing it down as well. So I feel like in general, we're packing a little bit lighter than some people are anyway.
Yeah, and I know people are going to ask what owner's locker is, so I'm just going to link to it in the show notes. It's basically a tub that you can store in Orlando, and then they'll deliver it. Are you having it delivered on Friday or Saturday?
Saturday, yeah, because we don't like we were just talking about that today, confirming we're not delivering until Saturday at the 3-bedroom. We don't want to it is a tub, and hauling it around is not fun, right? And packing it up. So
It's
This big.
it's so hard to carry. It's not like luggage that rolls.
yes,
Okay. All right. So Monday, June 2nd, the dads are golfing at 6:30.
dads are golfing at 6:30, and I think the thought, we're kind of going to have an early morning, but the thought is that the moms might take the kids over to the Triple D Ranch to see the horses. That's something that the kids really enjoy getting to do. And one of our favorite resorts is staying at Wilderness Lodge. We're not staying there this trip, but so that's something that we enjoy going over and being able to pop right over to Fort Wilderness and visit with the horses and stuff. And so I think while we have them out, because again, we all wake up early. We're an early rising family, and so our plan is probably to pop over there for a little bit. The dads are golfing.
Anything else on this day?
And then our park for that day is going to be Hollywood Studios. So we have, again, multi-pass and single pass things that start around noon. So we're thinking we'll probably get in there about 12:30. It might be something, again, where the moms and my mom and the kids, we head in there, and then the dads meet us when they're done with the golf. But then we have kind of our lightning lanes stacked between noon and 6 ultimately. Slinky Dog ended up being much later. I think the earliest I was able to get was 5:40 for that one when we were booking that. So we have lightning lanes. We don't have any dining plans for Monday. Hollywood Studios, I think we tend to do more of just like quick service grab and go type of things. There isn't any particular restaurant that we like. The adults like to have a stopover at the Baseline Tap House and just kind of relax a little bit. So it's a little bit more of a fluid day for us, where we'll probably be snacking more throughout the day than having a actual meal at any point.
All right. Makes it easier. If you want to be flexible, not having dining reservations is one way to do that. So that's nice. Okay, so that's Monday, June 2nd. Let's do Tuesday, June 3rd.
And so Tuesday is we have a rest day. We always like to plan, so we don't like to go back to back with parks. And so Tuesday is our rest day at the hotel. We did technically, because of the way that DVC points work, we technically do have 2 separate reservations, and this is the day that our reservations overlap. So when we did our room request, we also did put in that these are like to be linked and stuff like that. And so hopefully it shouldn't involve us having to move rooms. Again, I've only ever had one bad instance where that didn't work out. Almost always it's fine and we're able to stay in the same room, but that is just like a kind of oddity of that day, which would be really unfortunate because we have no plans for anything else during that day. So we're crossing fingers that everything works out. But that day will just probably be a pool day at Jambo and more swimming. And then we have a 5 o'clock dinner at Jinko that night for everybody.
Have you guys eaten at Jiko before?
Not in the most recent years, probably been at least 5 or 6 years since we've eaten there. And I don't think Maddie has ever eaten there. The kids, I don't believe, have eaten there.
Pretty fancy.
Well, fancy.
Are you an adventurous eater, Madison? Do you like a lot of different kinds of food, or are you
I like
picky?
to try new foods, but sometimes I'll be picky.
I think the food at Animal Kingdom Lodge is really great for adventurous eaters, especially.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. We're pretty fortunate. We got some pretty good eaters in our group. So
Well, Jiko should be good for y'all then.
yes.
Okay. Wednesday, June 4th?
Oh, sorry. I realized I completely forgot. On Tuesday, because I have to look at the other calendar, the moms are golfing that day. So that again, our rest day, but myself, my sister-in-law, my mom, the three of us will be golfing on Tuesday morning. And
Is
so
that also a 6:30 tea time?
that is not, it's later. That's a 9 o'clock tea time. I think there's something going on in the morning. That was the earliest tea time that day. So we think we are still the first ones teeing off, but it is not until 9 a.m. So a little bit later for us on that one. So then Wednesday, June 4th, again, another morning golf, another first tea time at 6:30 in the morning, and that is couples. And so myself and my husband, my brother and his wife, the four of us will be golfing together, and grandma will be hanging with the kids that morning on Wednesday. And then after golf, we'll be headed to Magic Kingdom for Magic Kingdom Day. And this is a Magic Kingdom Day where Magic Kingdom is open late until 1 a.m. So
Well, let's see how many he can hang
we'll
until 1
see.
a.m.
That's exactly right. So we did multi-pass and single passes for that starting around 1, giving, since we know we're going to be there later, we're not starting really early in the parks, kind of planning to get in there midday, see how things hang. So most of our passes are between kind of 1 and 5. And then my mom is definitely planning on heading back with Matthew, the 2-year-old, by 8 o'clock at night. And we kind of just see from there. So when we've done this historically, sometimes some people peel off at different times and different people have stayed late. Right.
I remember one time when I was 6, I stayed till 1 o'clock with you.
Yeah.
I think it was for a run thing or something.
Yes.
So
The kids
Okay.
can hang and we'll see how it goes.
I like being able to get out of the sun too. Being in Magic Kingdom without the sun
Yes.
until 1
And you
a.m.
find those late nights, it's nice because the crowds really do dissipate down and you feel like you can get a lot in those nights.
So with the different ages of kids, different heights of kids, how do you plan park touring?
I think we take advantage of rider swap a lot and kind of balance that out. And I would say for the most part, we're really focused on making sure that we're doing rides that the younger kids are gonna like, right?
But then we're also doing rides that the older kids like.
And then we balance it off with some kids with the older kids. So, and I usually try to pair things up. We take advantage of the rides being near each other, right? So like when we're doing Tron, we also around the same time that we have our Tron single pass, we have Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin for the multi-pass, and we'll likely split into two groups with some adults with the bigger kids, some adults with the little kids, and then we'll swap and kind of take advantage of that. My mom won't do Tron, but we did passes, and so we actually swap magic bands and kind of do that. And so then some of the adults stay with the little kids and they get to do Buzz again, and then the other adults will come in and jump in, and the big kids will get to do Tron a second time as well. So I feel like for that method seems to have worked out really well between doing rider swap and then just kind of being really intentional with kind of just doing a swap of activities and different rides that tend to be close to each other. When they're doing Seven Doors Mine Train, I'll probably grab Matthew and go do the carousel with him and stuff and let everybody else do Mine Train together. So we kind of just bounce around to the different things so that we've got activities going on about the same time.
Okay. Lots to figure out, but you've done it.
Yeah, it's a lot of passing magic bands around. If we're being completely honest, a lot of just passing magic bands around between everybody. And fortunately, it doesn't matter what magic band you're using when you're walking through a ride. So it's never created an issue before. We are missing as we're aging out though, with only one more little for the rider swap. I think there was a season when we had more of the kids that were in that rider swap thing, and as adults, we really took advantage of that. And so that
Yeah.
part a little bit of a bummer.
The rider switch system isn't quite as advantageous as it used to be either, because you can only get to add one person or whatever for the second group.
Yeah, they do
So
get a little bit more picky right now.
yeah, it's a lot more strict. So that is a
Yeah,
lot
I
to
miss when we used to
manage.
get like actual paper passes that you could just really pass around. That was the best.
Yeah, and I think if, people are debating buying magic bands, that on the list of reasons to consider it would be what you're doing, which is if you're passing them around, if you book a lightning lane for a kid and you're not sure if they're going to use it, it's easy to hand their magic band to somebody else and say, okay, you do it. It's way easier that way.
Yeah, totally.
You're doing it. Okay. Thursday?
So then Thursday, we have no golf on Thursday morning. And then we're going to be heading to Animal Kingdom that day. We kind of allowed for us to have an easy morning, assuming some of us are going to be up late the night before. So we'll kind of see how all of that goes. And then we have lunch at Tusker House. So we'll actually, our immediate family this year is actually going to have annual passes that we'll be activating. And this lunch at Tusker House qualifies as one of the 5 restaurants while we're there that if you go Monday through Thursday, it's actually a 40% discount. So it's a pretty sizable discount. We were thinking about doing a breakfast and we actually switched the lunch to be able to take advantage of that opportunity as well.
Yeah, that's a significant savings, especially with the number of people.
Yeah.
Okay, so regarding the annual pass, are you activating those at the beginning of the trip?
We will be activating at the beginning of the trip. And we don't normally get them. That's not something that we do. But we really find you have to go 3 times a year to really make it worth it. I would say when we go, everybody else is taking advantage of the like kids 50% off pass, the 3 days. We found it was cheaper to do the 3 days, 3 park, and then do a Magic Kingdom standalone was cheaper than getting a 4-day pass. And as you can hear from our trip, we don't park hop. We always just pick one park a day because we go often enough. We don't feel the need to have to be jumping around between parks to fit it in.
It's too exhausting.
It's too exhausting to have to jump around from the parks. And so normally we're keeping our tickets pretty straight laced, 1 ticket, 1 day type of a thing without any of those additional add-ons. This year, just because of the way some of the things are working out with points and other vacationing, our immediate family will be going down for multiple trips. And so we did find it advantageous to be able to take advantage of the ticketing. Although it was a close numbers game at the end of the day because I was pricing it out. And one of our other trips is right at the end of September, at the very end of the window of where they also still have these discounted passes going through. And so if we weren't doing another trip in February, it would not have been worth it from a price standpoint.
Okay. Yeah, the math is more difficult now than it used to be.
Yes. And I feel like things keep changing. You're just not 100% sure on where things are going to land. So,
Yeah, people always ask us if it's worth it. I'm like, you're gonna have to do the math because it totally depends on you.
yes, it's very unique to the points. So,
Okay, so on your Animal Kingdom day, are you using lightning lanes?
so we're not. We are doing the single pass for Flight of Passage, which we have in like the afternoon around 2 o'clock. But we really find that it's not necessary at Animal Kingdom, especially when we're going like in the afternoon to early evening. Feels like the lines are never very long at all.
There's only 8 rides in Animal Kingdom also, so there's not as many rides as in like other parks. So
Yeah, you kind of run out of things to book sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Other priorities or plans on this Thursday?
No, I think this day we all know we're just going to be seeing how everyone has weathered the week and trying to keep it pretty flexible. With the little kids, they really just love getting to see the animals. And so like going over to the conservation station, one of our favorite things to do over there that I think is a hidden gem is the illustration and being able to work with the Disney animators to do the drawing. We almost always try to do that.
last year I think we drew the eels from The Little Mermaid.
Yes. So that's something we normally try to make as a priority because I feel like it's a good thing that not a lot of people are at. It's always easy to kind of get in and be experience that.
With Lilo and Stitch coming out, I wonder if that'll be the characters. Because
Yeah, it'll be
It
really
might be Stitch.
We'll have to see.
it might be. You have to let me know what character you get.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready to move on to Friday, June 6th?
Yes. And so Friday gets a little bit wonky because it is a departure day for most of the group, not all of the group. So Friday morning, my mom, my husband, and then my brother and his wife, the 4 of them, will be golfing. They'll be golfing Celebration, which is off property, but really close to Animal Kingdom Lodge. So that Celebration golf course is very close to the Animal Kingdom Lodge with where it's positioned within Disney property.
Have
So
you
it's
been there
only-
before?
I have not golfed that before. My husband has golfed it before. So they're somewhat familiar with that. And then Friday is technically our checkout day of the 3-bedroom. And we normally like to do this. I like to kind of hang back. Everybody else kind of gets their stuff packed. The kids hang with me. I like to do all the like final finishing up in the room, getting everything pulled together. And then I hang out with all the kids and cousins for that morning and kind of prance around. And we normally find something fun and adventurous to do at the resort is normally what we do on that like kind of checkout day.
A shortage of stuff to do there.
Yes, exactly. We do have breakfast at Topolino's, very late breakfast. So the like latest possible reservations that you can get are like after 11:30, between 11:30 and like 11:45. And so we do have reservations for that we'll be heading over to.
So it's just like lunch instead of breakfast?
It's like lunch instead of breakfast, but they're still serving breakfast. So it's a late breakfast.
Yeah.
When you mentioned earlier in the trip that you didn't get too many hard to get reservations except for one on Friday, I thought you might say Topolino's, but the fact that it was at the end of your trip.
Yes, it's the end of the trip, so it was easy to get, but we did have to do 3 reservations of 3 guests rather than a normal like 5 and 4. So it was still a little bit wonky getting us all in there. But we have done that's kind of almost like our tradition. We've done that several years
We
now.
always do it at the end of the trip.
At the end of the trip. It's one of our favorite character interactions, and just the quality of the breakfast meal. We do really think it is a step above most other character breakfasts that they have. And so last year was the first year that we actually intentionally did it towards the end, and we found it to be really nice because the restaurant really is emptying out. Nobody new is coming in. The characters are spending a lot of a time at all the tables, and so it feels, and then the service is really on, they're really on top of things. They're really quick because they have way less tables that they're doing. We really find that it's a good experience.
So the people that are departing, are they leaving after the breakfast?
Yes, they will be leaving afterwards. So my mom flies out around 4 o'clock that day. So we'll have breakfast. She'll be around for another hour or two. And then she has a car that will be picking her up, car service back to the airport. And then my brother and his wife and their 2 kids, they are driving home. And so they will all get in their car, and likely pretty much right after breakfast, they'll be heading out for that.
Okay. So for the few of you that are staying,
Yeah.
what are your plans after Topolino's?
So we're going to kind of play it by ear, but where are we going, Maddie? Where are we staying that night? Do you remember? We're staying at Port Orleans Riverside. Oh no, Port Orleans French Quarter. That's
Yeah.
right. And
Get to try the beignets.
we specifically picked it because we really want to. We have not done the Disney beignets, and so in our quest to continue with some unique experiences, we decided we would add just a one night stay at Port Orleans for the beignets to try that. One of the other like side things that my husband and we try to do is we're just not with any level of aggression, but just trying to stay at all the different properties at some point in time. So just another opportunity to kind of just check another one off the list that we can have stayed at together.
Yep. Good. A smaller group that allows you to do that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Any other plans once you're at French Quarter?
No, I think, we watched a video to kind of prep for it, to kind of see like the different stuff that they have that was like a resort stay type of a thing. And
Go
so
to the pool.
Maddie, yeah, so the kids are excited about the pool and maybe the carriage ride. I think they
I
were.
think that one is at the riverside, but they're both really close. I think one is on one side of the river and the other's on the other side, so we just have to cross the river to do it. But yeah.
Yes. So we have options we've kind of talked through, but again, just, trying to kind of play it by ear, nothing overly organized from that side of things. And then because we will have our annual passes, if that night we do want to try to hop in or go somewhere, bop into Epcot or something for a while, we know we have that flexibility as well.
That is a nice thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about how many days you have on your tickets.
Right.
Okay, Saturday, June 7th, I expect that you'll be departing, right?
And Saturday we depart. So we have a 10:50 flight out of Orlando for myself and the kids, and then my husband will be driving home, so he'll leave at the same time. I think we haven't booked a car service yet, but I think we will, just because I find it to be inconvenient for my husband to have to drive us to the airport and then go home. The airport's not the same direction, it's the opposite direction that you would go if you're just getting on the highway to head back to Chicago. And so it would cost them an extra, basically like hour and a half or so of travel time to drop us off. And so I think it's likely we'll just have a car service take us over. It'll just be a lot easier.
All right. Well, this sounds like a fun trip. Lots of different elements, lots of logistics.
Yeah,
I love
lots
it.
of fun stuff going on.
Yes. Is there any, two things I thought of. Do you have any groceries involved?
Oh, we will go get groceries at some point with one of the vans. So one of the days, likely sometime on Saturday, somebody will do a grocery run and head out. We've been doing this for a while, so we pretty much have a solid plan of kind of what we're expecting. We know what groceries we get for a week. We do generally, I think I mentioned we have one breakfast, but generally we cook all of our breakfasts in the resort and just do that since we have the full kitchen. So we take advantage of that and we just do eggs and pancakes and stuff like that to make it easy. And then with kids at this age, we just know you just keep them fed all day long. So lots of snacks that we will be bringing into the park as well.
And then do your annual passes have photo downloads?
I'm going to be adding that on to mine. When I was buying the annual passes, I bought all of them together, and it does not give you the opportunity to only add that add-on to one. And so I am planning to call or go to guest services and add that as a feature before we do our first check-in day, but we only ever pay for it on one person because obviously with the sharing, you don't ultimately need it anywhere else.
Yeah, it's just like Memory Maker. It
Yes.
wouldn't make sense for everyone to buy it. So you'll have it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that'll be fun. Is there anything we haven't covered?
The only thing that I realized that I didn't mention is on Thursday night is couples night out. And so my mom hangs back with the kids, and we do have a reservation for Epilogue over at the Waldorf. So we did book that far in advance because we had heard that those reservations are sometimes hard to get when you want specific times and stuff like that. And so we do have that booked for Thursday night. So we'll be excited to have that experience as well.
Okay, fun. Okay, well, this sounds like a really fun plan and hope you guys have a great time. I will talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Sounds great.
All right, thanks.
Are dry eye symptoms frequently interrupting your day? Keep dry eyes off your schedule with Refresh Reliever PF Extra Lubricant Eye Drops, offering an advanced formula to soothe and hydrate your eyes. With innovative hydrocell technology to lock in moisture and prevent further irritation, Refresh Reliever PF Extra gives you lasting relief. Equipped with a soft squeeze multi-dose bottle featuring a double lockout system that keeps drops sterile, so you can feel confident using it. Refresh has been delivering relief from dry eye symptoms for 35 years. It's a track record of success that has earned the trust of physicians and patients alike. You deserve relief from your dry eye symptoms, and your eyes deserve extra. Find Refresh online or in the eye drop section at all major retailers. FSA and HSA eligible.
Welcome back from your trip, Megan to Madison.
Thanks so much.
We are talking on Tuesday, June 10th. So you've been back for 3 days. How did your trip go?
Our trip went really good. It was good. It was hot, but it was good. Not as hot as last year, so it could have been worse.
Yeah, this time of year is rough in that way, and it will be for a little while.
All summer long, right? We try to catch it at the beginning when it's not too bad, but we know it gets real warm. So
It does. Okay, so let's start talking through it because there's lots of logistics. Starting on Friday, May 30th, with most of you flying from O'Hare to Orlando and then taking your car to Kidani.
yeah, so myself and my two kids, Madison and Jackson, and then my sister-in-law and her two kids, Matthew and Emma. So the six of us left at basically 6:15 in the morning on that Friday, and we had a car service pick us up to take us to the airport. And then we went there. My husband ended up leaving around 8:30 to drive. And then Paul, my brother, left around 1. So he worked a half day and then left at the end of his day. And then my mom also flew on Friday, but her flight was later, around 10 o'clock in the morning. So we all, in some way, shape, or form, departed on Friday. Overall, the process of getting everybody out logistically was great, because we had the cars going down. For those of us that were flying, we had no luggage that we had to carry. So it was literally just our carry-ons. which made that process easier. The kids and I and my sister, we all flew Spirit. So we did that intentionally, super cheap flights with no added fees. We knew we just had to get in and sit in a seat. And that actually worked out really conveniently without us planning it and with us booking separately. We actually ended up one row right behind each other. So like the 3 rows and the 3 right behind. And so that was helpful and convenient for the flight. So we had 2 adults and 4 kids all in one kind of a 6-pack area together. But the flight went fine. It was very rocky. It's probably the most choppy flight I had ever been on. When we were coming into Orlando, there were a lot of the kind of like midday storms that were going on, even though it was kind of early morning, I guess. But the plane ended up having to circle for 45 minutes because the storms were just so bad and they weren't landing planes. So that was like the one little hiccup that we had. And of course, in the midst of all the turbulence, the 2-year-old had to go to the bathroom and all that fun stuff. So it was a adventurous plane flight.
Was this your first time on Spirit?
It was my first
I think
time.
it was Maddie's first time on Spirit. I think it's like we've done Frontier and maybe Spirit like once or twice when you're just going for a quick weekend type of a thing. But generally we're flying United or American. We actually flew United home. So yeah. The Spirit plane though was a brand new plane. Like you could tell it's
Mm-hmm.
brand new. So it was a nice plane overall for a
Yeah.
Spirit plane, I feel like.
I mean, they get a lot of flack, but the prices are hard to beat. And I imagine it's easier when you don't have luggage.
Right. And I feel like that probably is the difference maker, right? Like we knew we just had backpacks that all we had to do was slide under the chairs. So it was literally like we can be the last 6 people to get on the plane because we don't even care about overhead storage. We have no
Mm-hmm.
luggage that we're picking up. It really just made it a seamless experience of just kind of walking on, walking off. And even, we got off, called the driver from the car service that we utilized, and he was down waiting in the luggage area, but obviously we didn't have any luggage to pick up, so it was like we literally just walked right out to the car and got in the car. So that part was really nice, really convenient.
And what kind of car did you have? Because you had kind of a big group.
Yeah, so we ended up going from Orlando to Kidani. It ended up being an SUV. So they had a seat for the toddler, for the 2-year-old. And again, since all we had was we had a double jogger for the 2 younger kids. That is a little bit bigger on that side of things. We
Yeah.
have a Bob jogger that's been in the family for years since my kids were the ones using it. And so we did have that, but that was the only thing they had to kind of slide into the back. When we went from in Chicago, it was a smaller limo just because that was the most convenient thing. I feel like in Chicago, the SUVs with like multiple rows and stuff like that are maybe a little bit less common, or that's just not how they're set up. They're not set up as much for like large groups of people. Where I feel like in Orlando, all those car services know they're packing in people. So,
Yeah. People and bags usually.
yes, exactly.
All right. So you got to Kidani.
Yeah, so we got to Kidani, and when we got there, it was it was great. We basically went into the lobby and went straight into the hotel, changed into swim clothes, and went straight to the pool. So the room wasn't quite ready yet, which was fine, but it worked out really well that we were able to get in and just go straight to the pool. And how was the pool, Madison?
It was fun.
Yeah. Any favorite
So
things at the school?
The slide.
that's one of the best pools, especially with the different areas for kids.
Yeah, and I think we enjoyed that a little bit. We got over into the little kids play area, and it was actually Emma, who's our 6-year-old, who loved it the most. And my kids, I think, were a little bit kind of good with being done with that and moving back into the pool area. But I hung with Emma for a while, just in the like playground area, which ended up being a lot of fun. And she just was going back and forth and jumping around, and there were other kids in there. They really liked the water like they have a spot in there where you can like shoot water at people in the water canyons and stuff like that. And so that's always fun. And so I feel like they had a really good time hanging out in that area as well.
What was after that?
So we were there pretty much all afternoon. Oh, the one other thing I would just comment that I also think is like a hidden gem is that I think the food at that pool bar is some of the best food that you can get for a quick service type of a thing. So we actually, that's where we had our lunch, and we did like the nachos. Then they had the pita with a grilled chicken Caesar salad in it. and stuff for the kids. And it was just like really convenient and really easy. And so that ended up being really nice and a good time. So after that, our room ended up being ready and we headed back up there. And then Matthew napped with Monica, and I took the three other kids and we went down to the lobby and we met my mom. So she was getting in. It was right about 4:30. And so we went down to Sanaa. So we weren't going to eat dinner, but at the bar, which you can bring kids to if you're not sitting at the bar, but if you're sitting at some of the bar tables, they do bread service, which I actually didn't realize. I was talking to try to figure out, okay, we need to feed these kids something, like what's going to be the easiest thing, and I didn't want to have to go all the way over to Jambo House for a quick service type of a thing, and just I was, talking through, and someone mentioned actually, they said, oh, you can go down and get bread service, and we were just slightly before when Sanaa officially opened. And so we got down there at 4:45 before they started seating dinner at 5 o'clock, sat in the bar, all of us together. And my mom and I each had a drink and the kids had bread service with us. And that ended up just being really a nice experience and just very relaxing time that we had there. And so that ended up working out really well. And then that evening, we really just planned on kind of just getting out of the room more than anything. And we liked, especially with the young kids, we like to just go on transportation tours. We feel like that's enough to keep some of the kids entertained, right? They enjoy that. And so we ended up taking a bus to Hollywood Studios. And then at Hollywood Studios, got on the Skyliner and took the Skyliner, popped over to the Art of Animation like kick out, walked around there for a short bout, came back, and then took the Skyliner back over to Riviera. I think Riviera is one of our favorite places to be at. It's definitely one of our favorite places to stay. We love it. And so we kind of just spent the evening over at the Riviera Resort. We did dinner from their quick service from there, and then we basically took the Skyliner back to Hollywood Studios and took the bus back to Kidani and went to bed for the night. So it was a pretty laid back first day.
Can you talk about your 2-bedroom villa?
Yeah, so the room ended up being great. I mean, it was just what we needed, and because we were just there for the night, we didn't really get into it too much. I think the one thing I feel like I noticed with this visit, it's been several years since we stayed at Animal Kingdom, but I feel like at least the hallways didn't feel as dark as I remember them being. The rooms are definitely still very dark, right? It's all dark wood. It's dark like the carpet is on the darker end for carpet. The lighting, I think that's the one hard thing about there is the lighting is somewhat inconvenient in the rooms. It's like it's all table side lamps. There's no overhead lighting in any way, shape, or form. So those rooms in general just feel real dark, which I think is fine when it's only a couple nights. And I would say that the next move over to the 3-bedroom, they don't feel quite as dark just because there's way more windows and doors. But that was just that's just the only thing I like. Sometimes I don't love about that resort is it just feels real like dark. I don't know how to describe it any other way.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. But speaking of that, the next day, Saturday, May 31st, is when the dads were arriving, but you were also moving over to Jambo House to the 3-bedroom villa.
Yes. And so that worked out really well. So we knew from doing this before that the 3 bedrooms are never ready anywhere close to 4 o'clock, right? They're always, I don't think I've ever had one be ready before 5 o'clock. So we knew going into it, like to expect that wasn't going to be the case. Paul ended up driving through the night, and my husband stopped and slept for a little bit. And I think Paul took like a longer break, like in a parking lot at a Walmart or something like that for a little bit, but didn't do a hotel. But it actually ironically worked out where they both arrived within 5 minutes of each other right at 10:15 on Saturday morning.
That is wild.
Could not have planned it. Just ended up that way, caught up with each other like within the hour or two before they were getting in. And so it kind of just all worked together really well. We woke up with the kids and we went over to the Mara at Jambo House and got a solid breakfast. And then basically we're just kind of waiting for them to get in and just hanging in the lobby. The one thing I will say, both parks of both areas, but I do think that the Animal Kingdom Lodge has the most educational and like activity-based stuff in their lobby of any of the resorts that you could possibly stay at. And so that Saturday morning was when you guys were doing the activities to get the different beads. And so they have like a 5 or 6 bead like process over a 2-day or 1-day thing. And so for like different hours throughout the day, they have different experiences for the kids to be able to engage in. And so while we were waiting for the dads to get in and get everything ready to go to the water parks, we just spent the morning in the lobby really letting the kids interact with the cast members and take part in some of those activities. So they had a really good time with that.
Yeah. If you have to kill time, that is the place to be.
Yeah. It just is so nice. And they're so good with all the cast members. I love how they engage each of the kids where they're at and with what they need. And I think we saw that throughout this trip was just, I really appreciated kind of seeing the one-on-one cast members with each of the kids and kind of the questions and knowing good questions and how much to push different kids to answer questions and engage them. And then ended up being really nice. So
with the cars now in Florida, were you able to go for a grocery run?
Yeah, so Paul ended up going for a grocery run Sunday evening. So we didn't do anything on Saturday. We had packed stuff to kind of bring with of some of the kind of main things that we knew that we would need, and we had planned for breakfast on Sunday morning. So that gave us a little bit of lead time to not have to do like a grocery run immediately. So that was helpful as well.
Okay.
But then when all the vans got there, it worked out great. We unloaded the vans and put all the stuff in storage until the room was ready and loaded into the 2 vans and drove them over to Blizzard Beach. And we got there probably around 11:30 by time it was all said and done, maybe 11:45. But we had reserved a cabana space. So they call them the
polar patio.
Thank you. The polar patios. They call them the polar patios. And so we did have that when we got there. And that was everybody's first time at Blizzard Beach. So I think it was helpful. It was nice to have the attendants who were able to kind of just give us the lay of the land they kind of met us at the front. And as they were walking in, showing us the space, they talked about the different areas and, this color is good for this age. This color is good for this age. And kind of just gave us the quick update on like where things were at. And so that part was really nice. And so really we just spent then, the Saturday at the pool doing all the different things. Different adults traded off with the littlest too throughout the day. For my kids, they're old enough that we felt comfortable with them being able to kind of go off on their own and do their own thing. And they were kind of with each other, with the younger kids, with family, kind of bouncing around. I think as adults, we kind of all said in regards to like feeling more comfortable with letting your kids go off on their own. I actually feel more comfortable at Blizzard Beach than at Typhoon Lagoon just because of that wave pool. I don't think like that wave pool can, I don't know that we would have felt comfortable with the kids being in the wave pool without a supervising adult. They're probably like right around the brink of that comfort level. But knowing that was kind of off the table and it was really just slides and different things, there was kind of that side of things. So I think it was an interesting dynamic when we were talking about which one we love. I think the kids enjoyed Typhoon Lagoon better as far as like that water park because of the wave pool, but we feel like we were able to give them a little bit more independence at this water park
at Blizzard Beach. And so one of the tricky parts about water parks is you don't usually have your phones, like because they can't get wet, so it's kind of hard to communicate. Does having a cabana make it easier because it's like a home base that everyone can kind of head back to?
I absolutely feel that way. There was always probably at least 2 adults at the cabana space at all times, right? And a lot of it, especially with the kids, was like, okay, go do that, run through there, but then come check in with us if you're going to go do something else. Our cabana space ended up being it was pretty much right in between. Part of the lazy river went by right behind it. So if anyone was on the lazy river, they could yell up to us, but we were pretty much in between kind of the 2 kid areas. So like in one area behind was like the really little kid area, but then it was the kind of middle level kid area, I'd say, where they have the like floating icebergs and some of the smaller slides. And so some of the kids spent their time in that space where again, it was like really close before going up all the way to the slides or over to the pool. So we didn't pick that location. That's just the one that happened to be assigned to us. But we kind of all said that we were really happy with the random one that we ended up getting. We felt like it was a really good fit and a really good spot for our family to be able to be in for the day.
So does that mean that the cabana was worth the cost then?
We feel like it was. You know, I think there's a lot of those things that like us as an adult family unit really value, having that location. Also just I'll be honest, the service, right? I think that we value some of that higher level of attention and service, and getting that. We had two attendants that were fantastic. And so you just order all of your food through them. We basically just had snacking food for throughout the day. So as soon as we got there, we ordered like a cheese and fruit plate. We ordered Mickey pretzels, a build your own nacho bar, and a charcuterie. And then we ended up getting more Mickey pretzels at some point. But it was just so nice to like, they brought it out, and then we were partaking in some adult beverages as well. And so, you know, all the adults kind of just trading off and drinking beer basically, but they, you know, were just constantly running. And it was really nice because you basically just text them. You send a text message when you need anything, tell them what you need, and they respond. And I think that they are really attentive in general around all the time. But then if there was anything that we wanted at any point in time, it was so easy to just ask them for it. And so, you know, we stayed there basically until 5 o'clock. So we were there probably for 5 to 5.5 hours. And I did ask all the other adults. I basically was like, if you were going to do a water park again, what do you think? Take it or leave it. And every single adult was like, I wouldn't do it again without doing the cabana. They felt like it was that much of a benefit and a value, and we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I guess the fact that your water park tickets were included.
Free. Yeah.
Then,
I think it
you
makes
know,
it easier to spend that money, right? You're like, okay, that's a little bit easier to push through. So
so
oh, go ahead.
I was
No,
gonna say
I
at
was,
this point, you said it was 5 p.m. So I was like, hopefully your room was ready.
yeah. So I was gonna say the one other thing that I think is important to note on this, I'm glad that I asked, because when they brought the bill, they brought a separate food bill and a separate bar bill. The food bill did not have a tipping option. The bar bill did have a tipping option. I did specifically ask the cast members who got the tip with the bar bill, and it is the bartender, not the attendants. And they did say that they're not allowed to tell you anything unless you ask, but the attendants do not receive tipping from the tipping on the food. And so just on the side of that, like we did tip them in cash separately. We had cash in preparation just in case that was the situation. But I'm glad that I asked about it, because I wasn't thinking about it beforehand outright. I kind of just assumed, and I'm glad we said something about it just to make that clear. I feel like that's not something you would be thinking about. A lot of people may not be aware that they're not actually getting the money if you tip just on the food receipt. So
Yeah, I definitely would have thought that they got it, especially they're the ones serving you.
they're the ones serving you. Yeah, it was really interesting. So that's just a little tidbit of information. So we did get the message pretty much right at 5 that our room was ready. So we felt really good about that. And that's kind of when we were planning on heading out anyway, because we did have a 6 o'clock dinner at Boma that we had planned for that night. And so we were basically, I think we ended up going a little bit later to the Boma reservation, but the way that it worked is that we were able to essentially like get some of the stuff up to the room, we all changed at the water park before we left. So just because of the timing of things. So we didn't go back up into the room and like change and unpack and have that much time, but enough time to just drop the stroller, drop the couple of things we had in our hands, and then head straight down to the Boma dinner, which again was just, it's easy. It's a buffet. You kind of just sit. This was the first of our multiple food trips, of which when you have a party of 9, you almost exclusively have to book in separate groups. They were able to accommodate us and put us all together at one table at Boma. And so that only resulted in maybe an additional 5 or 10 minute delay. We, in pre-planning, because we do this all the time, we almost always try to get to our dinner reservation. At least one person, not our whole group, but at least one person usually tries to go ahead about 10 or 15 minutes ahead of any dinner timing to check in for both parties and notify the front desk to give them time to, if they can, accommodate getting us together in one group. And they were able to do that. They were great.
So in that process, do you skip the check-in that's in the app and you just check in at the podium?
Yeah. So we don't check in on the app unless we're actually planning on maintaining those groupings. We just always do our check-in then at the podium, essentially.
Yeah, we've been told that if you skip in the app, that the people at the podium have more flexibility to rearrange you
Yeah.
to possibly put you together.
Yeah. And I mean, and you can tell because they're always buzzing it, like almost every time they're buzzing in and checking with probably the floor manager or whoever's kind of running that to verify and give them a heads up. So it's almost immediate that you can tell they're starting to work on that and try to figure out how they're going to be able to try to accommodate you if they can.
Okay. And so dinner?
So dinner was great. We all just kind of had different foods. I think, the buffet side of things is more about just the flexibility of being able to have everybody go up. I don't think anybody in our family is particularly like huge, large eaters. We're not all huge dessert people. Maddie went and got desserts for the table so that people could sample different things and try things. But the food was fantastic and good and it's reliable. And so we felt really comfortable with that. And then we basically all went up to the room and got everything unpacked and sorted out between all the spaces. And that was kind of our evening. So it was pretty low key from that side of things.
Are dry eye symptoms frequently interrupting your day? Keep dry eyes off your schedule with Refresh Reliever PF Extra Lubricant Eye Drops, offering an advanced formula to soothe and hydrate your eyes. With innovative hydrocell technology to lock in moisture and prevent further irritation, Refresh Reliever PF Extra gives you lasting relief. Equipped with a soft squeeze multi-dose bottle featuring a double lockout system that keeps drops sterile, so you can feel confident using it. Refresh has been delivering relief from dry eye symptoms for 35 years. It's a track record of success that has earned the trust of physicians and patients alike. You deserve relief from your dry eye symptoms, and your eyes deserve extra. Find Refresh online or in the eye drop section at all major retailers. FSA and HSA eligible.
The next day was June 1st, Sunday, and it was your first park day at Epcot.
Yes. And this was our planned busiest day of the trip. And so we knew that going into it, that we had the most on the docket for this day that we had going on, essentially. And so, morning wise, for the most part, we're all getting up around like 6:30. Like I mentioned, we're pretty natural early risers within the family. And so kind of an easygoing morning, hanging out, I would say, with the room we got assigned. So, at the Jambo house, there's 6 3-bedroom villas. And so you can put in request, and we did put in a request to try to get something. I think we would have had a lot more flexibility at Kidani where there's a lot more options, but obviously it's, well, if you're the one person who's checking in and out on this one day, like you're only getting the one room that happens to be available. And so we ended up at one of so there's 2 that I would say are like closer to the lobby, and then there's 4 that are like further down at the like ends. And we've been in one of those before. Granted, it's been probably about 10 years, but man, that's a haul when you are in those 3 bedrooms that are all the way at the very end of the like spikes at Jambo House. And so we were really happy. We ended up being to the one that would be location wise to the right by the pool. And so it was closer to the lobby, a shorter extension of period. The balconies essentially overlooked like the flamingo area off to the side of the pool. And then we had the savannah to the left and the pool to the right. And right outside of the room, we had a staircase that went up and down all the way down to the pool and back up. I would say like this one, and then we've done similar, like I feel like Boardwalk is another hotel where if you know where the stairs are, you can way more conveniently manage your hotel than always going to like the elevators. And I would say that this one is similar. Like if you're by the pool and you know where the stairs are and where they're going, for some of those rooms, it can be way more convenient than always going back to the elevators. So that was just kind of nice. We felt like we got a good room placement. We had kind of been hoping to be on the other side with a full Savannah view, but again, the location of being close was helpful. So we kind of all got ready in the morning and again headed off for our first day here at Epcot. And we started off with a buffet at Garden Grill, which pretty much for the entire group was new. My husband and I had done that again several years ago, but just really, we really like the character buffet breakfasts or the character experiences. We feel like it gives the kids an opportunity to see a lot of different characters without having to spend a whole lot of time waiting in lines throughout the day and with the park. And so we feel like that's kind of, we normally try to pepper a couple of those in during our trip, and we feel like that's helpful. Again, a Garden Grill checked in. we had 2 separate reservations. They also were able to accommodate us and put us all in a group together. I think that's one of the ones I was most nervous about, because if you've seen that restaurant, the like main bottom floor is all like half circle that you would not be able to fit probably more than 5 or 6 people at, but then the upstairs part of it is all tables, and I wasn't sure because of how the characters move around if they were going to be able to move the tables around, but they were able to turn the tables and move those. And so it was great. And they, they recommended they like put the kids on the inside, or put the kids on what would be the inside of the circular area, so that it's easy for them to get up and get out to take pictures. And so that worked out really well. Breakfast was wonderful. For the 2-year-old, for Matthew, I think the first time one of the characters came up, he wasn't ready for it, and it was from behind, and he got very startled. And I feel like we've all been through this again, right? We've got kids that are 2 to 10 in our range of family, and so we've been through the gamut of all the different ages of them liking or not being happy or kind of things like that. And so with Matthew, he kind of was startled. So for Garden Grill, did not interact with the characters at all. The other kids got up, took pictures. It was fantastic. Matthew ended up coming and sitting with the adults on the kind of other side of the table. But by the end of the meal was good with seeing them and waving at them. Just didn't want to touch them or interact with them in any way.
Listen, I don't blame him. I always crack up at the things that we throw at little ones.
Yeah.
But yes, this giant Mickey is going to come to the table and you're just going to smile and act like it's normal.
Yes, totally. But I would say that I think the food here is really good. It's basically like a steak and egg, all you care to enjoy family style, with Mickey waffles and potatoes and bacon. Maddie, what about the bread? Do you remember the bread? It was like a cinnamon roll.
Oh yeah, that was really yummy.
Yeah. So they have a cinnamon roll bread that they start you with, right, for that type of a thing. And then, fresh watermelon. And so I think we all felt really satisfied, really happy with the food. And then our server actually, because Matthew, the 2-year-old, was just pounding those Mickey waffles, having the day of his life, he actually brought out like to go cups and had us like put extra Mickey waffles in the cups so that Matthew could take them to have to snack throughout the day. And so just again, I feel like from a cast member experience, just really conscientious and really aware of kind of what was going on, and felt like he really went the extra mile to kind of create a good experience for us.
Okay, so Garden Grill was a hit.
Yes, so that was good. So
Then did you get to go on some rides now?
We did. So for Epcot, we did the Lightning Lane multi-pass as well as the single pass for Guardians of the Galaxy. And so we did that, and we started with living with the land because we were in the land pavilion. We did not use our Lightning Lane on this because when we walked, it was basically a walk-on, as it is most of the time. But we kind of popped in there right after breakfast because that ended up being really convenient, and we're able to kind of start the trip off with that. From there, we headed over to Nemo and did the Nemo experience and spent some time in the aquarium space and through that component. Then we moved over to the Journey of Water, which is the newer Moana Journey of Water experience. I'm continually impressed that every time I go to this, all the different components are still working. I will say that I had the opportunity to be there within 1 week of when Journey of Water opened. And I remember all I was thinking is like, how long is it going to be before these different components are not working and this experience is not what it's supposed to be? And just, I will say, like, with the number of people that move through that thing, I'm constantly amazed that all of those different components are still at full functionality. And we went through every single component of experience with that, and it still was at the full functionality. And so
do the kids get wet going through this, or do they go to the dry route?
What'd you do? Did you get wet at all on that, or no? No. Stuck with all the dry stuff.
All dry.
All dry. After that, we kind of took just a quick snack and drink break. So we did get there. Kind of our reason for planning Epcot on this Sunday was the last Sunday for Festival
Flower and Garden.
of the Arts, right?
Flower and Garden.
Oh, Flower and Garden. That's right. I'm keeping them all straight. So Flower and Garden. And so they did have some of the like limited exclusive like food and beverage items. And so we did snacks. The kids did. There's a really fun, I think, the Goofy fishing drink which all the kids really enjoyed, which basically is, I don't know, blue lemonade. What is
Blue, it tasted like blue raspberry, like a slushy, and then they had those like little ball things, and then Swedish fish and sharks.
Yes. So candy, boba, balls, Slurpee. I think every kid's dream all in
Mhm.
one plastic cup that's shaped like a fishbowl. And so we ended up just getting 2 of them for the 4 kids to share, and that was plenty. All 4 kids, they didn't even finish the 2 of them. So I will say, like, probably don't need one for every child, but it was a nice little break to get to experience that a little bit. And then from there, we headed over to Spaceship Earth. And at this point, Monica went off to go get in line to meet Moana. Moana was one of the characters that Emma was particularly interested in seeing her and getting her autograph. And so the 8 of us remaining went on Spaceship Earth while Monica went and did that and got in line. And so when we got off Spaceship Earth, then Paul, Emma, and Matthew went to go meet up with Monica in line for Moana. And then the 4 in our particular family with my mom, we went over to Soarin' and we hopped in line and used one of the fast passes. So that was like our first lightning lane. Ultimately, that we were, I guess we did use the lightning lane on the other ones. I apologize. We did use the lightning lanes on the other one, but they were all still pretty quick things. So I don't know that you feel like you get a whole lot of the value out of there.
I know, but people love the burner ones. So that when you tap in, you can start.
It does help keep moving things along. So, and with Soren, we were also was one of the first ones that we were doing rider switch on. With Matthew, we're kind of at the last season of being able to take advantage of the rider switch opportunity, but we feel like that worked out really well. And so we did kind of set up a rider switch component in the midst of all of that as well from that side of things. So, and then I think this is somewhat popular now, but one of our favorite things to do in the lines, even though we don't feel like we wait in a ton of lines, is we do like to play Disney Heads Up, which I feel is pretty popular. You see a lot of people playing that in lines, but I would just say if anybody does not have that, it's totally worth it. Great for the kids, easy to engage with people of all levels. As long as you can read, you're pretty much at a good point. And so we feel like that really helps pass the time. That's helpful. And so after Soarin', and that was also Emma's first time on Soarin', and we were really excited. She loved it. So always exciting as you kind of have these kids are just starting to get old enough and tall enough to try some of these different rides, to be able to go on them and have them have a good time. So we were glad that she really enjoyed that. And then we headed over to Guardians, where on Guardians we also did some kid switching, and Emma had been in our group that we had purchased a single pass for, but we didn't end up having her ride. And so between kid switching and moving around, we were able to get a couple more people that ultimately got to go multiple times. And so Monica and I hung back with both the kids for the first group while everybody else went on Guardians. And then they came back and we traded out, and myself and Monica, Jackson, Madison, and then my husband were able to go back. So we were able to get 5 in the second grouping, essentially, that went back. And so for my husband, Madison, and Jackson, they ended up getting to do Guardians twice, which ended up being a lot of fun. Okay, so then after that, my mom and my brother took Emma and Matthew back for naps, for just a quick run of naps, basically straight from there. And we had at this point, so I guess the Guardians time was when we were going the second time, that was at 3:30. So basically after the switch, the little kids, my mom and my brother, they left right at that point. So while we went on Guardians the second time, they were already headed back, took the car back to the hotel to get the kids in for naps, because we did have dinner back at Epcot that night. And then the 5 of us, Monica, myself, my husband, and our 2 kids, stayed, and we really just kind of hopped around World Showcase for the afternoon, doing some of the different snacks and different treats and different drinks, and really just kind of hanging and relaxing. I think we are all starting to feel a little bit tired. So I think between swimming the day, being up in the morning, and then it just being warm, we were all kind of getting to that part of being a little bit worn down. It was a kind of a very easy, I guess I would say, a little bit easy and flexible from that side of things. I'll also comment, originally I had a frozen lightning lane from when we had booked in advance that was right after the Guardians, which was poorly planned on my part given the napping situation. And so I actually went to a guest services team member right before the Guardians experience and asked if they would be able to help me move it in any way. Obviously, at that point, Frozen was totally gone for the day. There was no way to modify the time. I kept trying to like flip through and see if something would pop up, but it wasn't happening. And kind of just explain the situation that we really needed to get the kids down for a nap, that I really didn't do a good job of picking a good time. And she was incredibly accommodating and moved our Frozen lightning lane until after our dinner that we had scheduled. And so,
Which is perfect because it was right there, your
which
dinner.
ended up, yes, was perfect. It ended up being right there. It ended up being great because then the kids, the younger kids didn't miss out on anything. And again, just something that if I hadn't have asked, we probably wouldn't have even thought about. And, I always think the cast members are great and they always say this is not something they're supposed to be able to just move. And, I don't think you ever want to take advantage of that type of a situation. But in that moment, it was really nice to be able to have somebody accommodate us and be able to help provide a really great solution. And so that ended up being really nice. And then we essentially had dinner at Oscar House for the princess experience, and that was at right around 6. So I think originally for that we had scheduled our reservations for 5:30. My brother and my mom and the kids were just delayed in getting back from the hotel. And again, I went and I let them know they were on their way. We are going to be delayed. And again, very accommodating from that side of things. And so we didn't end up getting into there until probably about half an hour after our like scheduled reservation time. But again, no issues with that. They were totally fine and they made it work for us. They at this point they weren't able to put all of us at the same table. They did have us at tables essentially right next to each other. And then because our kids, I think, obviously, like we go fairly often, they're used to kind of eating out. We were able to have the kids sit at one table all together and then the adults with Matthew at the other table. So we ended up having a 6 and 3 type of a situation. And there was an extra chair, so Matthew was able to go back and forth as he kind of desired. But that was just really nice and helpful. And again, similar, all the adults were able to just stay sitting at the table. The group of kids were able to hang out every time one of the princesses came up. They all kind of stood up together without any adult having to get up or move around. We're able to stand and get some really nice pictures. And then, the princesses were able to spend their time interacting with just the kids and kind of moving through that thing. And there were more princesses than I think I was expecting. I think there were 5 in total. And so that was a fun experience. And we were really happy with all of the characters we got to interact with at that point. So
Some people have complaints or mixed opinions on the food menu for dinner there.
Yeah, so it's very authentic. And I will say that we've never gone there before. And part of the, Monica in particular had made a comment that she really wanted to try the food. And I would say, we're fans of like German food and a little bit more. I think that we all have a little bit more palate cultural comfortability. And so we're not picky. No one in our family is a picky eater by any means.
You're adventurous eaters.
We're
that's
very
it.
adventurous eaters. And so we found it to be really good. I think the kids really enjoyed the meatball with the mashed potato that they had. Most of them were eating that. And so that they were pretty satisfied as well. But really, I felt like we ate pretty much everything, salmon. And so I would say that you're definitely not getting traditional fare by any means. There's definitely flavors and spices and things that are not accustomed to or people are not used to all the time. But overall, I think that we felt like we enjoyed the food. So, but I think also
Good.
we knew exactly what we knew what to expect going into it. So I think that's helpful. We knew that the menu would be leaning into the authenticity of the restaurant from that side.
Yeah. So then you got to go on a ride?
And so then we got to go on Frozen and knocked that out afterwards. And from there, we honestly then kind of just took a nice leisurely walk back around to the front of the park. We spent some time, the kids, they really enjoy, I think all of our kids really enjoy the trains that are running out in World Showcase, and kind of just spent some time letting them kind of watch the trains and go through that and walk through. And then basically after that, everyone except for Madison, myself, and my mom headed back to the hotel, and the three of us stayed to watch the fireworks and the nighttime show. We ended up getting a patio, like a general access patio seat over by Rose and Crown, but not like in their official eating area, but they have some space. We were on the left. I know they have some on the right-hand side by the fish place. They have some on the left-hand side, also behind the beer carts. And so we were able to get a table there that basically put us with right up against and being able to get a front view. And we did that with only about 15 minutes.
Well, that was gonna be my next question,
beforehand.
because usually those are pretty coveted, but you didn't do it super far in advance at all.
No, there was one table with two chairs that I think just because you have to like go all the way around and sneak in and go through it, and it was like totally packed. I don't know if people just didn't even realize that those two chairs were free. We just happened to see it, and my mom was like, "I'm on it," and she kind of went in
Yes.
and went and sat down, and then we went in, and then Maddie was able to really just stand and hang out in the space. And there was another older mom and daughter similar to like me and my mom who were also at the table next to us, and so we were just kind of chatting it up with them, and Maddie was able to kind of just stand and look over the retaining wall that they had there. And we had a great view, I think, right? You were happy with the view of everything.
It's pretty.
And then the three of us, so at this point, everybody else had left and they took the vans. And so since we were over in that area when the park entered, right before the show started, I actually pre-booked a Lyft to pick us up at Beach Club and take us back. And so since we were by that back entrance of Epcot, I had the timing ended up working out perfectly. Fireworks ended. We walked out the back entrance, went to Beach Club, went into their shop for maybe 5 minutes, maybe not even. And the Lyft arrived, and we basically just took that quick Lyft back to the hotel for the night, and we're good to go.
What time did you pre-book it for? Do you remember?
So I believe that I booked it for 9:45. I think it arrived like 5 minutes early at 9:40. And I would say that we were like solidly in Beach Club in the lobby ready to go by 9:30. So I feel like the fireworks went from 9 to 9:15. We kind of took our time, took 15 minutes to walk to the Beach Club. And then kind of, like I said, we just kind of, Maddie tried on some ears and some hats, and we just kind of hung out in the shop. And then when I saw that the Lyft was arriving early, we kind of just took out of there. So that worked out really well. When 9:45 was the earliest I could book it at the time I was booking it, which would have been like 8:50. So you can tell that a lot of people probably do that. It wasn't allowing me to do like a 9:30 pickup. But like I said, the timing just felt like it worked out really well. I was curious, like, I wonder how many people don't pre-set it up ahead of time and then afterwards maybe are trying to get their Lyft as they're walking out and stuff like that. I'd be curious how that might be a different experience. But even with doing it basically 10 minutes before the fireworks started, I was able to get a pretty reasonable time. So that worked out well.
Okay, that'll give people a good idea on the timing if they want to do that, because that's, if you're in the International Gateway area, that is the way to go.
Yeah. It was so convenient. So convenient.
So then you made it back.
Yeah. So.
Are dry eye symptoms frequently interrupting your day? Keep dry eyes off your schedule with Refresh Reliever PF Extra Lubricant Eye Drops, offering an advanced formula to soothe and hydrate your eyes. With innovative hydrocell technology to lock in moisture and prevent further irritation, Refresh Reliever PF Extra gives you lasting relief. Equipped with a soft squeeze multi-dose bottle featuring a double lockout system that keeps drops sterile, so you can feel confident using it. Refresh has been delivering relief from dry eye symptoms for 35 years. It's a track record of success that has earned the trust of physicians and patients alike. You deserve relief from your dry eye symptoms, and your eyes deserve extra. Find Refresh online or in the eye drop section at all major retailers. FSA and HSA eligible.
All right.
So Monday morning is our first day after, and this is our first golf day. And so on this day, Jeff and Paul were golfing Magnolia. And I don't know how many people who listen to this are golfers, but we are big golfers. So I will tell you that the Magnolia, which is one of the courses at Shades of Green, has been under construction in some way, shape, or form for the last 3 years. We've been playing it in various avenues. Disney Quality used to host PGA tournaments and high level tournaments really a lot in like the 80s and 90s, and then kind of fell out of favor. And so they spent the last 3 years renovating this course with the hopes of trying to lure back the PGA for a tournament. So just something for people to be aware of in case you aren't. Their goal was to increase the difficulty level and just kind of step it up a little bit to try to bring that energy back to it. So that was something we were really looking forward to this trip, of being able to play the full Magnolia course from that side of things. So the boys had a 6:30 tee time, which is the first tee time of the day. So they're up and out by essentially probably like 5:45. Maybe it would probably be earlier if you weren't as familiar, but again, we golf there often. We bring all of our own clubs, so there's not a lot of like logistics that we have to do when we get there. If you're going in early tee time, the cart is usually not particularly active yet, and they don't always have the snack shop open that early in the morning, so that's just something to be aware of. If you're needing like a breakfast sandwich or something like that, you kind of have to plan ahead of time. Now, I had mentioned when he went back, Paul went out on Sunday night and did go to the grocery store, basically getting eggs, milk, pancake mix, fruit, and things like that. So just the real staples for us to be able to do breakfast in-house for the rest of the week. And so the kids and everybody else woke up in the morning. We realized we didn't have butter, so we did go down and get butter from the shop. And I think that's also in the deluxe resorts, because of all the kitchens that are in the space. They actually do have a fairly, not necessarily the best price, but a fairly extensive grocery space for getting those types of things. So we were able to get essentially a tub of butter that we needed to be able to do our breakfast. And in the room, the moms and kids, we made eggs and we made pancakes and had that with fruit. And so kind of had a nice leisurely morning for the kids, even though they were all up by 7. We kind of made breakfast, had breakfast at 8:30 in the room, and kind of went from there. And after breakfast, Maddie had a surprise experience. Do you want to share a little bit about what you got to go do on Monday morning?
Auntie Monica took me to go do the horse riding trail, which is like 45 minutes long, and it was really fun.
So they went over, the two of them, to the Tri-Circle D Ranch, and Maddie is the only one who's old enough, right? So you have to be 9 or 10. Jackson may have been, but I think it's right on the edge there.
Yeah, I think you have to be 9 years old to be able to do the 45-minute
trail
experience. But you have to be older than 3 to do the pony rides. And so
yeah, so there's a good amount of options over there. I think, again, one of those things that if you don't know it's there, you may not take advantage of it, but it gives you, I think I mentioned, we try to do different experiences, something we haven't done before. We've done the pony rides with the kids before, but no one had done like the full trail ride, the full horse ride from that side of things. And so Monica and Madison went over together and did that in the morning and had a really good time.
Yeah.
So it was nice.
Did the other kids who weren't old enough to do that, did they do something else?
So my mom and I took the kids, and we actually went and did another transportation morning, which again, at this age with, a 2, a 6, and my son, the 9-year-old, was great. And so we actually ended up driving to Magic Kingdom parking lot, took the tram, got on the monorail, took the tram, and then we took the ferry boat to Magic Kingdom, and then we got on the monorail and took the monorail around. And so we kind of just had a great time bouncing around, moving, and every ride's a ride for them at that of things. We talked about maybe going into the park that we had that day, which was Hollywood Studios, but we decided we would just kind of kick around in the area from that side of things. We also were very excited. The tram driver on the way back to the parking lot was chatting up with the kids and gave them all a tram transportation card, which those, again, those are always a fun experience if you're able to get those. Because you can't buy them anywhere, and so people may not even know that they exist, but the different modes of transportation, the staff that work them do have little almost like a playing card type thing. And so really kind and considerate, and even made sure like each kid got a different color trim card because they have different facts on the back of it and stuff like that. And so just another A+ character interaction, cast member interaction that we had from that side of things. So that ended up being really good. And then I'll also share just like one of my like mom tips that I think we learned from another family that I think is one of the best tips for going with young kids, especially because of all the shops. So I don't know if anybody has young kids like we do, but they're inundated with different toys and shops and they want this and they want that. And one of the tips that we had been given that we really do use, especially in that 2 to 7 range, I would say, is that you basically tell the kids like, great, I'm glad you like that toy. Let's take a picture of you with it. And then as we go through the week, we can look back on these pictures of all these different toys. And depending on what your family situation might be, if you might want to say you can get one souvenir at the end of the week, but then at least you can take pictures throughout the week to see which it is that you really ultimately want. But I would say that most of the time, you don't even have to result in actually buying anything, that just being like, oh, that does look like such a fun toy. Let me take a picture of you with it. It's amazing how much that satisfies the kid, feeling like you're like acknowledging how much they would potentially like that toy. And I think they feel like a sense of validation from it.
I think
So,
that's so clever. That's so clever.
yeah.
Because I think a huge part of it is what you said. It's validation. Like, look, I'm into this thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, great, let's take a picture.
Yeah, let's take a picture. That looks like so much fun. And it's just easy to be like, oh, we don't, we can't carry that around with us today, or that's too big, but man, let's take a picture because that is a cool toy. And I feel like that, especially for the 2-year-old and the 6-year-old, was great. It was so cute because Matthew then found, my mom is a big fan of Winnie the Pooh. Matthew found like a Winnie the Pooh set and insisted that my mom take a picture with the Winnie the Pooh set because he was like, you have to take a picture type of a thing. So that was just kind of like a fun experience that we had when we happened to be in the Contemporary and going through their shop. So that worked out great. And then the timing really just worked perfectly for all of us, between my mom and I and the kids heading back, Madison and Monica being done, and the boys being done with golf. And we all ended up back in the hotel within, I would say, God, had to have been like within half an hour of each other. And so that experience ended up being great. And that was probably right around like 11:30. So really we're able to kind of spend our morning in that and hanging out from that side of things and going through. And that ended up being really nice. So then my mom stayed back with Matthew because basically we got back, put Matthew down, he took a nap. And my mom ended up staying and sleeping with Matthew, and the rest of us at about 12:30 headed over to Hollywood Studios to kind of start our day at Hollywood Studios. And we had, again, for Hollywood Studios, we had done lightning lanes as well as the lightning lane for everybody, and then also the like single rider activity option as well. So we did have that factor that we had going in. We started with Tower of Terror, which was the first stop. Emma was not excited to ride Tower of Terror, so she opted out of that. And so again, we took advantage of the kid switch that we had there, even though Matthew wasn't with us because Emma was choosing not to ride. We were able to kid switch that. And in this situation, again, the cast members were extremely accommodating because we brought both Madison and Jackson up, and normally they will only give you a kid switch for one additional person. But I just kindly asked if there was any way that we could kid switch for both of them so that they both would be able to go on the second time with Paul. And again, they were very accommodating to be able to make that happen. And so Paul took Emma and got her face painted over by the new Villain show area while we did Tower of Terror. And then we essentially, the bunch of us went on that. And then I swapped out with my brother and I hung out with Emma. And then Jackson didn't want to do it a second time. So actually, the ironic part of that is we did all of that so that they could both go with my brother. But then Jackson didn't end up wanting to go. And so the way that it all ended up like trading out, and I feel like somehow it worked out that I then was hanging out with Jackson and Emma. And then my brother, Madison, Jeff, and Monica were all able to go again because of like the way that it all worked out, with having the Emma pass that never got used, and then the 2 extra rider switches. So that was 3 people, and then they got to go with Paul, who was sitting out the first time. So those rider switches, if you position them right, I feel like can come in clutch with a decent number of people of getting some good groups going. So when I was then hanging out with the kids, I was trying to find some food because we're right after lunchtime, 1-2 o'clock. We haven't eaten anything since breakfast at this point. I think this is the part where like mobile ordering more in advance for knowing which places you need to mobile order more in advance, I think is clutch here. So for example, I was able to mobile order like adult food from the Friar, not the Friar Nook, but the one that's over by the ice cream place. So we were in that Tower of Terror area, and I was able to mobile order and be able to get like these really good like bowls for the adults. But like for the kids, they just wanted like a cheeseburger, which means I had to order from like the All American thing. And the mobile order for that was like 45 minutes out. And so then I was like, well, I'll just wait in line. It can't possibly be that long. The line ended up still taking 30 minutes for me to get through, even though there were like 5 people in front of me. It did seem like they were back ordered on cheeseburgers in particularly. I felt like you didn't see them come out for a really long time and other people were moving through. So I would say that would be like a faux pas. I probably should have, when we were in line at Tower of Terror, made a point to get those mobile orders in so they would have been ready in advance, and I waited too long just not really thinking about that. And so that ended up just taking slightly longer. We then were like eating, and the intent was for us to go to the Villains show, and we popped over there essentially. So we finished eating at like 2:20, and there was a 2:30 show. And we basically popped over and we're like, oh, we'll just pop in the Villains show, which again opened like the Friday before we got there. So this is a brand new show that they just added. And we got over there and they were like, here's the line for the 3:30 show, right? They were like,
Oh,
you people, you don't know what you're doing showing up 5 minutes before a show starts. No, you can't just pop into the line. So I did not expect it to be that popular. I guess I just didn't think that it would be. Years of us just popping into the Lightning McQueen show, you kind of could just walk right in at the last second, no big deal. And so I wasn't prepared for that. So we didn't end up getting in on that show. And because of other lightning lanes that we had planned, we didn't end up staying in that area. But we did put in a mental note that we wanted to get back over there. We were big fans from that side of things. Emma's face painted was in the Maleficent zone. And so just a big fan from that side of things. So this is 2:30. So we ended up heading over to Star Wars Land, where we did have our Rise of the Resistance lightning lanes, and again utilizing rider switch at this opportunity. At this point, Matthew and my mom met up with us, so literally it worked out perfect that basically on our walk back over, coming down Sunset, they were kind of coming into the park at the same time. We stopped for 5 minutes for some ice cream, Mickey bars and ice cream sandwiches. They walked in, and then we all headed over to Star Wars Land together. And then at Rise, did the same, did a rider switch, and I stayed back with Matthew while everybody else headed. So Emma got to do Rise for the first time, and then we had a kid switch on this one. And again, somehow it worked out. I don't think we must have asked, but it did work out for both Madison and Jackson to be able to go back with me. So they did give us 2 ultimately at the end of the day for us to kick back through. So Matthew and I kind of bumped around and hung out. We did see Mando and Grogu, which were out visiting. Again, Matthew's still not in his like super excited, kind of was just weary and kind of looking back, but it was nice to see those from a character perspective, not ones that we've really seen historically a lot from that side of things. So he was out in a very informal setting. And so not like with, I think that's how it is mainly in Star Wars Land, right? They're just more of a Disneyland setup, just walking around and hosting groups and stuff like that. And so that seemed to work out really well. They came out, we did the kid switch and kind of went through. We stopped off for some Squadron lager, which again, depending on if you are a particular aficionado for beer or a fan or no, there's a particular beer that is theme named Squadron lager in Star Wars Land that is only served at one beer cart in the back type of a thing. It has a little bit of trend following from people who enjoy from the beer. So we always like to make a point to make it over to that cart. I picked up some of the specialty popcorn while we were back there as well from the market area, and kind of just were in and out of there. We didn't end up doing the other ride that was there, which our kids really enjoyed, but just the timing didn't quite work out for us to pop that in, because then from there we basically had our lightning lanes in Toy Story Land. And so we headed after our Rise and jumped over to Toy Story Land and had Toy Story Mania first up on the docket from that side of things. And so the Toy Story Mania ended up being, that was about, so at this point it's 4 o'clock. I feel like you know how it is. Like the time it's, so I guess I should comment on this. If you are using Writer Switch and you've never used it before, it significantly increases the amount of time it takes to do anything, right? So a normal experience that might be a half an hour is easily doubled, even though you're going through quick, you're going through the lightning lane things and stuff like that. But just any ride that you're doing that you're utilizing Writer Switch on, it's a solid hour that you're spending in that space going through that experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Timing wise, you got to allow extra.
Yeah, it just takes a lot of time. And so when we went over to Toy Story Land, we walked through Jessie and Woody, and the toy soldiers were out and about. So we saw them as they were kind of walking and parading through. And then we hopped on Toy Story Mania. Again, at this point, it was essentially 4 o'clock, and we did that ride. And after that, we grabbed some food at Woody's Lunchbox. This we learned from our previous experience. So Monica and I mobile ordered as we were walking towards Woody's Lunchbox. So it wasn't quite as crazy because it was kind of like mid-afternoon, but both Monica and I put in mobile orders as we were kind of walking through walking through towards Toy Story Mania, going through the thing, getting it all set. And then basically on Toy Story Mania, as soon as we finished the ride, before disembarking the ride, like as soon as the ride was done, both her and I put the thing in that we were here and to prepare the order. That timing worked out perfectly for that. By the time we like walked out of Toy Story Mania, had everyone together, the food was ready. In complete luck, we happened to find two tables that were next to each other. One we started at, and then the table next to us was starting to get up, and they recognized that we had extra people, and they're like, "Oh, here, do you want these chairs and stuff?" And so, I feel like particularly in that area, there's not even close to enough seating for people. There were definitely two other families who were eyeing that table that were extremely disappointed that they kind of passed it off to us. But it was fortunate for us. We were able to kind of get everyone around together and finish and be able to kind of just have a good solid snack together from that side of things. And then from there, we headed over to Muppet Vision 3D. I think, for the little kids, probably not as particularly exciting, but for us as adults, my brother and I, my mom, who've been going to Disney for years, this is one I remember as a kid. It was like this one and Honey, I Shrunk the Audience are the ones that, like, as a child going to Disney, I just remember so much. And I'm so sad that I can't have my kids watch the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience experience or play in that playground that I feel was such a part of my childhood growing up. And so I was surprisingly kind of really sentimental. I didn't think I really would be. And I'm not one of those people that's a huge Muppet fan. I know there are people who are huge Muppet fans. Like I'm an okay fan of the Muppets. I have nothing against them. But I was kind of just, oh man, it's another thing that I know from my memories is kind of going away. But so we did bring all the kids and my mom, and we took a picture out front of all of us on it, or all of us before we headed in. And again, walked in right as everything was going through, got perfect seating and kind of mid back, had a really nice experience from that. And then from there, because we were planning and we knew there was a 6 o'clock villains show. And so we did head over to get there early. And I should say, I did ask the cast member when we were there earlier in the day to say, when did this line cut off? Like, how soon in advance do we need to plan on being there? And he had recommended being there at least 15 minutes before showtime, if not 20. And he basically was
and when you attempted earlier, did you say it was 5 minutes before?
It was 5 minutes before. So it was and there was already a long line for the next show that was basically, at that point, it would have been, I think, a half an hour later. But now later in the day that we're going now, the shows are only once an hour. They're not every half an hour. And so he had recommended 15, but really 20 if you want to guarantee that you're in it. And so we got over there at 5:36. So we're 25 minutes in advance. We did get in, but it did get cut off sometime in between that 20 to 15 minute zone. So if we had been 15 minutes ahead, we would not have made it in. We still would have made it right in 20, but it was right in there that we could see that they ended up blocking it off from the line. And so we did end up kind of just hanging out and waiting in that line. At about 5:50 is when they actually started filling the thing and doing the component of bringing everybody in and stuff like that. And then the show started itself right at 6 o'clock. So that ended up working. And we were near the later group, right? So we were close to the cutoff of that side of things. So we ended up in seats all the way on the left-hand side, But ultimately, we felt like they were still pretty good seats. We were fairly close to the front. We were probably like 4 or 5 rows back, all the way on the left-hand side, but it had good show orientation. There were only like a couple of very minor things that I don't feel took away from it at all, but it was good. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good, again, getting to the point of taking the kids to Lightning McQueen when you're trying to kill time and stuff like that. I thought that the show was cute and well done. I think it was fun to see a lot of the different villain character components, and we'll be interested to see if they develop or take advantage of some of the opportunities they have with this show. I think that they do have opportunities to like trade out or have different experiences. And I know at the end of the show they do say come back again, because for those who don't know the premise of the show, I guess it's so new, people probably don't know the premise of the show. Without giving anything away, essentially 3 of the villains are live on stage. There's a lot of other villain interaction through screens, but the audience is essentially voting which of those 3 villains has been treated the most unfairly. And they say that it is by like applause voting. I do feel like the character who ended up winning did have the the most applause cheering for that. And then the comment at the end makes it sound like maybe the winner could be different depending on how the crowd reaction is. I don't know if that's the case, but it will kind of be interesting and kind of just to see the longevity of this. I think it's interesting to see Disney. I can feel like, they announced the Villains Land. I think they have this pocket in. I think we're starting to see them put in these test balloons, right? Of like, how much is there a fandom for villains? Is it what people are claiming it's going to be? And will it hold up at the end of the day? So I think it's kind of fun if you're a Disney fan and you like Disney and you're going there to know that you're part of these experiences that ultimately is market testing, right? This is market testing for them to know. And, we have this kind of, if this show flopped and if some of their other tried things that they're doing is not going well, you know, even though they say they're going to build a villains line, that might completely change the perspective on that if they don't feel like they're getting enough from the offerings that they have. And so I'm excited over the next couple of years just to kind of see how some of this kind of develops out and what the reactions are from people. And basically after that, we were exhausted. So I mentioned that Sunday was a long day. We went a full park day. We normally don't go from like open to close on park days, but we kind of did that. And so everyone was tired after this right at 7 o'clock. And so we ended up not hanging out for the rest. We like had a slinky dog, but the kids were tired. No one really wanted to trek all the way back over to Toy Story Land to kind of hit that up. And so we pretty much called it at that point, and we're just kind of like, all right, we're gonna be done with this. We're gonna pop out. We grabbed a couple of like churros on our way out, and then headed back and let the kids do some night swimming. I think that we live in the Chicagoland area, so swimming only happens between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Pools aren't even, unless you're doing indoors, like outdoor pools aren't even open. It's rare for pools to be open late in the Chicagoland area. And so the concept of being able to swim in a pool at night for our kids is particularly exciting. And so that's what we went back. We went back to the hotel and the kids just jumped in the pool and swam for the evening. And some of them were out till 9 o'clock at night. So it still ended up being a privilege.
Me.
That was Maddie.
Only.
Maddie was out till 9 o'clock at night. And
That
so
sounds like a fun way to end the day. And I'm sure the kids, especially the younger ones, will be like, that's their favorite memory of the trip.
It always ends up being that way, right? You think it's going to be the parks and the rides and the things like that. It often tends up being these experiences.
Yep. Or the transportation rides that you went on. You never know what's going to hit. The next day was Tuesday, June 3rd, and this was your turn to golf.
Yes. So this was golf for Monica, myself, and my mom. And we did end up getting paired up with a wonderful gentleman from Quebec named Mark, which again, if you golf often, that is a normal thing. They fill foursomes. We are all regular golfers, so that was not surprising for any of us. We kind of figured that would happen. On this day, they were still doing some coursework on Magnolia, and so our tee time was at 9 a.m. This was still we were still the first tee time of the day, but it was much later in the day than we would normally be teeing off. And so we headed over to Golf Magnolia as well and get that experience. And then the dads took the kids over to do mini golf at Fantasia Gardens. And so they drove over and headed there for the day about the same time. And this again was just kind of another like weird experience, but my husband and I years ago one of the times that we had done trips, it had to have been before we even had kids. Him and I, they used to do Disney tickets where you could pay a small fee to have them never expire. And we had 10-day tickets from a while ago. And we had at that point the like water parks and more option. And the cost to make them never expire was like relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things. And so we had made them to be able to never expire. And one of the like and more options is you can do mini golf as like a thing to use. And so my husband has 8 like days of and more things that are on, and I have a bunch of mine as well. We have like there's weird things because the tickets are so old. They're in the My Disney Experience, but when they put them in, they both went under Jeff. Anyway, it was like a whole thing. But so Jeff was talking with the cast member and says, "Hey, I have all of these and more experiences. It's multiple tickets, and can I use them for essentially my brother and I and the 4 kids, like 6 people, can I use them for golf?" Which you're not supposed to do. You're only supposed to be able to use it for yourself. But he kind of just asked, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, that's no problem. I'll let you use it since they're so old. I know you're trying to use them up. No problem." Well, so then the cast member went to go scan them, and because of the tickets are so old and like upgrades that they've done in the system lately, could not scan the tickets. Pretty much explained to my husband that you're going to have to basically go to guest services and get somebody to help you deal with this so that you can use them. But then said, I'll give you the golf for free today since we weren't able to make this work for you. And so again, another day of another experience where I just feel like a cast member really went above and beyond, did not have to do that. We certainly didn't ask for it. My husband was fully prepared to just pay out of pocket for it. But again, just a really fun treat and a nice experience for us to have that they were able to do that. So that ended up being really great. In the meantime, the ladies were golfing. We had a great time. Around noon, slightly after noon, storms did roll in. And so it did start kind of drizzling for us when we were on the back nine, kind of 15, 16. And by the time it got to 17, it really started coming down. I golf enough, my mom golfs enough that we don't feel the need to golf in the rain. We were done with that. Monica and Mark decided that they were going to kind of power through. So 17 and 18, my mom and I hiked back to the clubhouse. Monica and Mark ended up finishing off. And I mean, it was not like drizzling at this point, it was raining. So they like legit played in the rain, but they kind of came back and finished those last 2 holes in perfect timing because within 5 minutes of them getting back, there was lightning in the area, which causes, a course delay as well. And so for people who don't golf, that means everyone, no matter where you are on the golf course, has to come back to the clubhouse and you have to basically wait it out and then go back out. And so that, a lot of people will call it at that point in time because you're, what normally is like resort golf, if you're not the first ones to tee off, can take up to 4.5 hours. That's not an uncommon thing. So it's by no means a small time commitment. We teed off at 9 and we finished at 3:30, so 3.5 hours, which would be considered playing very fast. A big component of that is that we had no one in front of us and that we are all experienced golfers. So we don't pace at resort golf anyway. So we were fortunate to be able to get that done. But I can't imagine if we were not the first ones off that we would have gotten as far as we did on that day. So we were happy to get as far along as we were able to get on that day. So at that point, the kids and the boys are back having lunch at the Mara right about noon at that kind of same time that we're kind of wrapping up from golf. And then this was our planned down day. And so we did not have any parks this day. It truly was just kind of golf, relax, hang out. The middle of the day was spent swimming, relaxing, and kind of just all around just having a really relaxed day. And then we all had dinner at Jiko that night. I think it had to have been like a 5. I'm looking at the time. I think it was 5:30, between 5 or 5:30. We were one of the first seatings for that, which again, same, that one I actually was able to get a reservation for 9. So I think it's not as highly sought after. And so from that side of things, probably less demand in just making reservations. We also were the first seating that was there. And so that was particularly convenient from that side of things. The table was actually really cool. We got placed at a really large center table in the restaurant, which was entirely made out of one giant slab of stone, which obviously probably was like put together, but like really nice size wise, easy for us to kind of work through. It was kind of tapered on one side. So it worked out really well from just the seating. We felt was really good. And again, the servers were wonderful. They have a special kind of bread there that people are fans of. They call it giraffe bread.
It's delicious.
It's Madison. The kids loved it. How many rounds of that did they bring out for you guys? A lot. So they just kept the giraffe bread coming. They were happy to do that and just very accommodating. And so it ended up being like a really nice leisurely meal. Again, Jinko. So it is more of the adventurous eating, right, options. So still concepts of like steak, but you're having like braised beef, there's duck, there's, other maybe less straightforward options, the flavorings for sure, more on the African spices and stuff. And so we all really enjoyed it. Steak is on the menu for the kids if you have some of those kids that are at that point that are fans. Matthew, the 2-year-old, had the steak and ate the entire thing, and it was probably like a 6-ounce piece of steak. Like we were all commenting on it that we couldn't believe that was a child's menu item. My brother joked that he absolutely could have had that for his own meal and he would have been fully satisfied.
Did the 2-year-old eat the whole steak?
He ate the whole steak. I think like maybe 2 other kids grabbed bites off of it, but Matthew also he's an eater. He's just a kid who's just like every piece of every food consumed and you don't know where it goes. He's just in that growth.
He might be headed for a growth spurt.
And perfect age, right, for that where he's at, because at 2 he's not at a child price yet, so pretty much everywhere he's eating for free, right? So that was convenient as well from that side of things.
You guys are really doing the eat where you're at mentality.
Yeah.
Which is much easier at Animal Kingdom Lodge because they have so much great food.
It does make that pretty convenient. So that worked out. It does. Well.
So that's the end of Tuesday?
Yep. So that was it. And then Tuesday they just did a little bit more night golfing or night swimming after dinner, but overall real relaxed from that side of things.
Are dry eye symptoms frequently interrupting your day? Keep dry eyes off your schedule with Refresh Reliever PF Extra Lubricant Eye Drops, offering an advanced formula to soothe and hydrate your eyes. With innovative hydrocell technology to lock in moisture and prevent further irritation, Refresh Reliever PF Extra gives you lasting relief. Equipped with a soft squeeze multi-dose bottle featuring a double lockout system that keeps drops sterile, so you can feel confident using it. Refresh has been delivering relief from dry eye symptoms for 35 years. It's a track record of success that has earned the trust of physicians and patients alike. You deserve relief from your dry eye symptoms, and your eyes deserve extra. Find Refresh online or in the eye drop section at all major retailers. FSA and HSA eligible.
And then
Wednesday, June 4th, couples golfing.
Yes. So Wednesday, June 4th was couples golf, and we did the Palm, which is the second course at Shades of Green that's there. And I like the Palm. It's one of my favorite. It does a little bit more like back in the woodsy areas of the two. I particularly like that. So I was really happy. We also learned, because I forgot to mention this the other day, but people who are golfers will care, but people who are not golfers, people don't know. But interesting, fun Disney fact that we learned is that the golf, for people who don't, so golf is actually managed by Arnold Palmer Golf, which is a management company. They manage a lot of golf courses throughout the United States. But when they were redoing Magnolia, in the back, which I think it was 15, 16, and 17, or 14, 15, 16, there's like a group of 3, and those holes they named Grumpy's Gauntlet. And as of a week ago, I haven't looked today, but it talks about Grumpy's Gauntlet on the Disney website. When you go and you get the cards, they're shaded different, and it says Grumpy's Gauntlet. There's something on the website that says you'll get a certificate for completing it. And we found out from just chatting with the starters, which is always fun to do because you get to get all sorts of TID information, that Arnold Palmer Golf put that together and designed all that, but they never cleared it with Disney ahead of time. And apparently, after everything had gone through, Disney came back and was like, no, actually, you can't call it that. We're not going to do licensing for that name usage and stuff like that. And so right now, the cards say Grumpy's Gauntlet. It says it on the website, but he basically said once this usage of cards is done, that will go away. They will not be on the next printing, and that term you won't be able to find it anywhere. So again, course just reopened that thing, but it's kind of just one of those fun Disney stories of this will be something that has a very short lifespan of more just the dynamics of managing managing relationships than anything.
Yeah.
So.
But that is kind of wild though, to call something a name that is copyrighted or trademarked or whatever and not get clearance.
Not get clearance for it ahead of time. And the part that like blew my mind is like it's on the Disney Golf website, which is like a Walt Disney site. Like with all the copywriting and the depths they go through to approve stuff, it's so funny because it's like the right arm wasn't talking to the left arm, because certainly got approved by some people to be out there and then not the other side. So just a really tiny experience, but just something that's kind of a unique thing that happened. But so yeah, so the couples went out and we did golf, and again 6:30 tea time, which means we will cruise through our golf that morning. No one ahead of us, no one slowing us down. The morning was beautiful. We golfed great. It was really nice. And my mom spent the morning doing another transportation morning with the kids. They took the boat over to Hollywood Studios, or they took the bus to Hollywood Studios and then took the boat at Hollywood Studios over to Epcot.
And then we went on the Skyliner.
And then they went on the Skyliner back to Hollywood Studios. After golf, the four of us went over to Wilderness Lodge to go have lunch outside at Geyser Point. This is like the one place we will travel to go to. I think this is one of our favorites of location. Just love the serenity of being able to sit out along the water. The bar feel very relaxed. Now, they did just do an overhaul to Geyser Point. So completely overhauled the menu, changed up the seating. It's less loungy, it's less loungy feeling. It was more of sit back, relax, cushion chairs, lounge feel, bar, a little bit more informal, but I think it just gained so much in popularity that they converted it. So a lot of those lounge spaces that were like comfy layback chairs with low tables were converted into 4-chair high tops, or not high tops, but 4-chair like dining table, outdoor dining table. So clearly taking a space that maybe before was seating 4 or 6 and converting it into 2 tables that could seat up to 8. You could tell that they were really converting for like capacity. And then they did change up the menu. The bison burger is still there, which is a favorite. They changed up the French dip, and I was talking with the person about it, and she was asking what I thought, and I actually told her I didn't think it was as good as what they had before. I wasn't as much of a fan of it, and I had the one that they had on the menu before, and I thought it was really good. And so that's just something to be aware of. Like, we were not aware that it had changed over from that side of things. And so for other people that maybe really enjoy kind of just hanging out there, just a heads up that the menu is different and it is a little bit more of a dining experience now and less of a bar loungy feel. So,
But you were talking about them increasing capacity, but with the tables, but also it discourages lounging.
It discourages lounging, right? That's what I mean. Like the feel definitely shifted a little bit. I mean, we were there right when they opened. And so again, I mentioned, right, we're playing golf early. We had a 6:30 tea time. We were done and off the course, fully packed and ready to go by 10:30. So 4 hours. So we played in 3.5. We were at Wilderness Lodge by 10:40. And so they opened at 11. And so we were the only ones there. We just sat at the bar, 2 and 2 at the corner, which enabled us to kind of just have some nice conversation with the bartenders and kind of get some conversation from that and get a sense of what was going on. But it definitely, I feel like, definitely does not feel as loungy and relaxing, which was one of the things about it. So we'll have to be interested. We like staying at Wilderness Lodge. So at some point in the future, we'll stay there and we'll have to kind of reevaluate how we feel it goes at different points. So
to know.
After that, we basically all headed back and went back to the room. And then napping wise, Matthew was napping. My brother was not feeling well this day. So finished golf, finished lunch. He wasn't feeling great after lunch. And so he laid down as well as my mom. We're all napping when we got back. And so they stayed and napped. And my husband and I and Madison and Jackson, and then Monica and Emma headed over to Magic Kingdom. So it's 2:00 essentially when we're getting to Magic Kingdom, but this is the day that Magic Kingdom has extra magic hours. And since we're staying in Animal Kingdom Lodge, we have the opportunity to stay until midnight. So still a full day worth of time available for us at Magic Kingdom this day. We did again do Lightning Lane and the single for Avatar as well from this side of things. And so we've kind of got that going for us. Our first thing when we got there that we headed over to was Tiana's. And so that was kind of just in and straight through to Tiana's is where we were going from that. Monica was a big fan of Splash Mountain before, so this has been something that's been like on her list. And when we had gone last year, we had basically just missed it. Like it was still in like previews or something. So like we were not able to ride it because it wasn't open for us to be able to coordinate on our most recent trip. And so this is her first time and all of our first time getting able to ride that ride, which was fine. I like it's cute, but it's again, I like if we're being a little, I don't know, I don't want to be like overly critiquing. I think that it's fine. I think the queue is really well done and really well designed. The ride, the one part with the story that I just have a hard time with is that I was like, how many times do they need to be like, we need to go find people for the band? Because they say that basically same thing 8 times in a row in different contexts. And I don't know that it's entirely clear that like you're shrinking down. Like I think like for the adults, I think you get the concept that you're shrinking down, but like for kids, I just felt like it was a little bit harder of a storyline ultimately to follow. But I will say that I think the like scenery was really well done. It was really beautiful, really enjoyable from that side of things. Maddie, did you enjoy the
Yeah.
Tiana's? Maddie was very excited for Tiana's as well. It's one of her favorite princesses and favorite stories. So she was excited for that. Emma did not enjoy Tiana's. She was not thrilled.
Is she not a fan of drops?
You know, I think it probably is like drops because if you get to Seven Doors Mine Train, she's okay. She did Mine Train last year. I think it was the drop concept. I also think that maybe she worked it up a little bit in her head. So if you've been on Tiana's, you know that there's like a small drop at first that goes through, but I think she didn't know and thought it was the big drop. And then like she was just done and not happy. And I think she didn't. I think it's different like on Frozen, you know, because Frozen she's fine as well, which also has a drop. Again, not the same level of drop as like a Tiana's, but still a pull you back and a drop. But maybe part of that is like, you know it's coming and you're all together. And we
It's probably because she's ridden the Frozen ride a lot of times before. I mean, I'm sure the first time she rid it, she probably wasn't ready for the drop, but she knows. But then it's her first time that she's ridden Tiana, and so she's. I also didn't. I also thought the first small drop was the drop, but I wasn't ready for that either. But I liked it still.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a good point because if you know there's a big drop coming, you're anxious about it, you spend the whole time anxious. But
Yeah.
you could, yeah, I think maybe it's a good thing to be like, we'll let you know when it's the big one.
Yeah. So that was fun. I mean, but the ride photo is hilarious. We're all like screaming. My husband's arms are up. The kids are going, and Emma is just like stone cold, like focused in, and she is not smiling. She's so super serious. I had so many comments from friends that were like, "Oh my god, that face is just too much." It was.
this is her face.
Yeah.
From there, though, we did go over to Mine Train, which it took some coaxing to convince Emma that she does in fact like it, that she's been on it before. There are no big drops. So she was hesitant and originally said that she didn't want to go on it. We lovingly convinced her.
And
I
she
think
was good.
I think she was great. She really did have a good time. So I think for the most part, we're usually pretty flexible with the kids. Where if they don't want to ride it, we're fine. You know, like Jackson didn't want to do Tower of Terror a second time. We didn't make him do it a second time. We're not gonna like force. But then it's hard when sometimes when you have kids and you're like, but I know you'll actually really enjoy this, right? At some point,
Mhm.
you're like, okay, if you legit are scared or you legit don't want to do it, we're not gonna force you to do anything. But it's so hard sometimes where it's we know you better than you know yourself at this point, and we feel like you're gonna enjoy this experience. I think that's just a classic parent experience to be going through. So, but yeah, so we did Mine Train and that was great. And then we popped over to Little Mermaid, which I didn't secure a lightning lane for. And I knew better. This is not our first time riding Little Mermaid. Never once have I ever been on this ride and stood through this standby lane and have it be less than double the time that it says that it is outside. And this is like veteran mom faux pas on my part because again, you know, we've got lots of kids. We've ridden the Ariel under the sea a lot of times. And I knew this going into it. And it was like it was posted for 20 minutes. And we're like, oh yeah, we'll just pop over. It'll be fine. And again, not. It was most
40.
certainly like a 40-minute standby wait. That line does not move, which has to be from the number of people going in on Lightning Lane, right? Because these omnivores like just should be eating people alive.
Yes.
And it is certainly not the case. And so they must have so many people that they put through from a lightning lane on level on that. And so that part was just like more or less just, I think we were wet from Tiana's. Maddie and I were in the front on Tiana's.
I made her go in the front.
Made me go in the front. We got real wet. And so at this point, I'm like wet, standing, and it's air, and then because it's inside, they like blow cold air on you. And so I will say that for this 40 minutes, I probably was not the happiest person to be having to stand in line with. I was not thrilled. I was wet and cold and standing in line for 40 minutes. But I also really do like this ride. I will say, like, my favorite scene is the like under the sea song sing with Sebastian and going through with all the fishes. I just, again, those like ones that you remember. I remember taking all of our kids through that when they were young, and it just being like a classic, really joyful part of the ride. And so attitude better when we got through it. And then after that, at this point now it's 4 o'clock. So we've been in the park for 2 hours. We've been popping through things pretty fairly quickly with lightning lanes and not having the little kids. And we stopped for snacks. So ice cream, popcorn, and Mickey pretzels for a quick pop over, walking through back over in the circus area on our way over to Tron. And I think, again, not everybody maybe is aware, but there is that nice little walkway that goes back behind the Barnstormer over to Tron. And so if you're over in like Fantasyland, sometimes that's just a much easier, convenient way than having to walk all the way around the Tomorrow Speedland to pop over there. But we did have the single use Tron component. And again, we're able to do the rider switch. They did not give us the extra rider switch at this point. But again, just my mom ended up not wanting to ride it. Emma wasn't going to ride it at the end of the day. We still got a rider switch with Matthew. And so it still worked out that it was like the 4 adults and the 2 bigger kids rode Tron. My mom took Emma and Matthew and went and did the People Mover a couple times. Then we swapped and basically I think Monica and I were done with Tron after the first one, and then my brother and my husband went back with the 2 older kids, and so the 4 of them got to end up doing it again. This is when I realized, I will tell you, in all the time we've been doing Rider Switch, I didn't realize that this change had happened, that when they give you Rider Switch now, there is a return time that shows up in your My Disney Experience app. And so they did have some problems going back through because we basically came off of Tron. Monica and I walked away, and the 4 of them like went back through because you can there's like a right by the exit is like you can turn around and get right back in the entrance without having to go all the way back out and walk around. So there is like a quick turnaround. And so they went to go in and they ran into some trouble where they weren't going to let him in. And eventually my husband was able to talk it through, and they let all 4 of them go through, and it ended up being fine. But I think part of the problem is that I didn't realize at that point in time, because at this point it's 5 o'clock, but when I looked in our app, our return time for the rider switch was 5:52. And so I'm not sure if that was part of the problem, that like, I don't think that my husband and brother for sure didn't know that. I didn't realize that. And so that's something that I hadn't seen before. Again, we've never had a problem using the rider switch immediately right after the ride. So this was the first time we had experienced that. So I don't know if that's a new thing or if other people have that, but that's just something that I can't imagine having to work out. I mean, I already mentioned, like, you already have to basically double your time and assume a ride's going to take an hour just to do a rider switch. I can't imagine also trying to work out having to have those group of people also go back an hour or hour and a half later. Seems incredibly inconvenient to have to do that. So I can't imagine park planning in that environment. And so afterwards, everybody else wrapped up and we all headed over to Buzz Lightyear. That was fun. We kind of were all able to jump on that from that side of things and knock that one out. And then essentially after Buzz, I'm trying to remember exactly how this worked out. Okay, so then after Buzz, my husband wanted to go back. He had wet clothes, his shoes were wet, and he was like, if we're going to be here till midnight, I should have brought a change of socks. I didn't think through that. But at this point, it's 5:30, 6 o'clock. I can't do 6 more hours in these shoes. And so Jeff left and headed back to the hotel and basically was like, I want to go to the gym. I want to work out and I'll come back. I'll have some more energy and I'll be ready to go. So he left and the rest of us headed over and we did the Tomorrowland Speedway, Maddie and I ended up not doing that. We kind of hung out and relaxed a little bit. Maddie looked in the shop at some things while everyone else did the Tomorrowland Speedway. And then after that, we jumped over and did Dumbo all together. So the 8 of us went over and did Dumbo. And then from there, we split up, and my mom, myself, and Madison and Jackson ended up going to Skipper Canteen to get some like full meal. We, at this point hadn't really eaten anything except for snacks the whole day. And we
Did you have a reservation?
I did not. So I had been keeping an eye. I know that Skipper Canteen, again, just from years of going there, I know that's a fairly easy last minute reservation to get. And we like it. Again, I think to your point of adventurous fooding, Skipper Canteen is 100% on that list. It is not traditional fooding by any means. And so you have to be more adventurous. Jackson ended up being completely fine, but was not happy that cheeseburger was not on the list. He actually asked the server if he could get a cheeseburger, and he very kindly was like no, but ended up fine with the food, and it ended up being okay. But yeah, so I originally was just going to try to do like a walk up, because the walk up time was showing 10 minutes, but then you have to be a lot closer. At this point we were at Dumbo, and so at Dumbo I was able to basically set a reservation for 6:35. So we were at Dumbo at 6. I was able to set a reservation for 6:30. I was able to get that for a group of 4. And so by the time we walked over there, it kind of all ended up working out. We waited maybe 5 or 10 minutes to be sat at the table, and we did that. And so while we did that, Emma and Paul had Matthew and Emma, and they kind of just did some different activities and stuff. And then Paul was going to head out and started going, but then Emma also ended up getting a little bit tired at this point. And so their entire family, between Paul not feeling well and just I think the kids being tired, they basically all ended up not staying around quite as long and all left early. So Paul left ahead of everybody. Monica had Emma and Matthew, and they did a couple more things. They got some pictures and did a couple more rides, but they were really out by 7, 8 o'clock as well. So they didn't end up staying very long. After dinner, so now we're at like 7:30, and the night's just cruising away. My mom, myself, and our kids, we went over and we did Haunted Mansion. And then we jumped over to Tiki Room. So again, Tiki Room, one of those ones, like my mom's first year of coming to Disney was the year that it opened. And, Tiki Room was one of those original park opening offerings. And so she has a lot of fond memories of that from her childhood growing up. And so that was fun, and it's great. I think my kids are good about knowing that it's a decent experience, but more that it means a lot to my mom to be able to go.
I liked it.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. So that ended up being nice. So we did the Tiki Room, and then at this point now, basically, time just flies. It's 8:30, and my husband was coming back at this point. So we walked from Tiki Room back to the front of the park, which basically is going to put us back at the front of park at 9 o'clock. And fireworks are at 9:15 this night. And so we went back to the front of the park, and one of the things that I promised the kids that they love to do every time is to get cotton candy. But if you get cotton candy from the confectioner shop in the front of Magic Kingdom, they fresh spin that throughout the day. So I'm not a fan of cotton candy by any means, but I don't ever buy the tubs of cotton candy that are around the park, because that is just like normal processed, packaged, put together and sent out type of cotton candy. I'm sure it's fine, but like legit, if people want good, decent, fresh cotton candy, I love that they are spending that on a regular basis. And so that is kind of like a treat that my kids really enjoy, and we had on the docket of we're going to stop and get the fresh cotton candy. And so we did that. And so that's right about 9 o'clock that we were at the front of the park for that. And then my son doesn't particularly love fireworks. He's not a big fan of the banging and the noises from it. So he's just not ever really interested in watching fireworks. So Jeff and Jackson went off to go do rides during the firework time. And then Madison, my mom, and myself again ended up finding. So at this point, again, I think we have some decent luck in our opportunity. So we basically walked back by walking through the back. So they had the back path open that comes out in front of the Tomorrowland Terrace area. We walked back up that way and kind of walked through the side and ended up getting like in a side spindle on the bridge closest to the castle between what would be like the teacups and the castle. And we're able to get a pretty decent like side view of the castle. So we're not front on by any means. But, you know, for again, finding that spot at basically 9:10 for a 9:15 firework was pretty good. Madison was able to be right up against the thing, and there were projections on the side of the castle. And so we feel like it was still a pretty good spot for the timing of when we got there. Yeah. Yeah.
The only bad thing is that you can't really hear the music that's back there.
Yes, that was a good point. On the spindles, they don't have like speakers. So like you could hear everything, but you could tell it was coming from like the main hub. And they don't really push the speakers out along the sides, which I did think was interesting. Like the music you could hear a little bit because you knew, but any of the narration was incredibly difficult to hear. And I didn't feel like we were that particularly far off. So that was interesting. During that time, Jackson and Jeff rode Barnstormer and Teacups and then went back on the Tomorrowland Speedway. And then just like in the pure chance of how it worked, when they were on the Tomorrowland Speedway doing the straightaway is during the finale of the fireworks. And so this is at 9:38. And my husband got some of the best firework photos I've ever seen in my entire life. And you could not have timed it, right? Like you couldn't have planned it that way. But they were just like on that long straightaway for the entire of the finale and had a straight, unobstructed, wonderful view of the fireworks. And so that was kind of a fun experience for them without even intending to kind of get to that mode of
That's
thing.
nice. So was your son driving the car? And
Yes.
then your husband was taking pictures. So a little bit of a win-win because
Yeah.
your son's, I don't care about
He
fireworks.
doesn't
But
care,
you're
he didn't care anyway. So, but yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So that was kind of neat. And then we basically met back up in the Barnstormer area. Our kids really liked the Barnstormer. And at this point, you know, it's 10 o'clock, it's getting late, and the adults basically just sat and we let them do the Barnstormer. Do you guys remember how many times did you do it? 4 times. So they just kind of just kept going and running and doing it around.
I could do it one more time because they were letting people just stay on if they wanted to do it again.
Yeah, as we were getting to the end of the night.
Jackson said that we should just stay on and do it because it's a really fast ride, but I was like, no, Mommy and Daddy told us to go back. So
yeah, so that was nice. I feel like that was a good experience. We did also get on Space Mountain at one point during there. You know, I thought it was interesting because so you get to stay for the after hours, and so then there's no more lightning lanes, but like the Tron wait is 90 minutes. Some of the waits were just like, I can't imagine. I mean, I guess if you're trying to get it in, but I just like part of it was like, I can't imagine like having this access and spending the entire 2-hour experience that you have in line for Tron. I mean, we like that ride, but I don't think I like any ride long enough to stand more than like 40 minutes in a line for it.
especially during a perk that
yeah.
is supposed to make it easier.
Yes. The one thing we were kind of bummed is I think we were kind of hoping, and again, I just wasn't aware that Jungle Cruise doesn't run during the extra hours. So I think that's an important thing because that's a harder lightning lane to secure anyway. And so in my head, I had kind of just been like, oh, we'll hit Jungle Cruise in the evening on the way out when we have the extra hours. Like it'll be fine. Maybe that'll be one of the last things we wait for, but that does not run in the extra hours. And neither does People Mover. That was also super disappointing. Because I think we were trying to catch that at the end and get on the last ride, and
they
that
shut it purposely so that we didn't get it.
We were like, they shut it right after the people right in front of us walked into line, and so we literally, if we had been there 5 minutes earlier, would have been able to do it. So it was just interesting. But we hit Teacups on the way out, and then got churros as we were walking out with everybody. And at this point, you know, it's 11:40, so we pretty much made it all the way to midnight. By 11:50 we were at the monorail, and so that was nice. I think we just left like 15 minutes before it officially closed, and so it wasn't terribly crazy.
It wasn't crazy at all.
No, there were no people, right? Like we weren't
people in the monorail.
Yeah.
The little car that we got, there was nobody there.
So despite staying, by leaving that 15 minutes early, we had 0 crowds leaving. So we took that around to the Ticket and Transportation Center and then got back in the car and headed out and, you know, tumbled into bed, basically straight to bed for everyone when we got back.
Yeah, it was a very long day. Your tea time was at 6:30, so that had been a very long day for you.
Are dry eye symptoms frequently interrupting your day? Keep dry eyes off your schedule with Refresh Reliever PF Extra Lubricant Eye Drops. offering an advanced formula to soothe and hydrate your eyes. With innovative hydrocell technology to lock in moisture and prevent further irritation, Refresh Reliever PF Extra gives you lasting relief. Equipped with a soft squeeze multi-dose bottle featuring a double lockout system that keeps drops sterile, so you can feel confident using it. Refresh has been delivering relief from dry eye symptoms for 35 years. It's a track record of success that has earned the trust of physicians and patients alike. You deserve relief from your dry eye symptoms, and your eyes deserve extra. Find Refresh online or in the eye drop section at all major retailers. FSA and HSA eligible.
All right. So the next day was Thursday, June 5th, and this was your Animal Kingdom day.
Yes. And Animal Kingdom, we did not do the general lightning lanes for. We just did the one for Avatar. Just in general, like I know that they're cheaper, but there's hardly any rides at Animal Kingdom to be doing. And I never, I guess it'll be interesting. It was a little different this experience, but like going into it, we had kind of been like, never historically had to wait particularly long for any ride that we've ever done there. So just didn't feel like there would be a huge concern from that side of things. Also, my kids don't particularly love dinosaur. And so just thinking about some of the rides of like, where would you get your benefit from? And the makeup of the group that we had, it just wasn't on the docket for us. So save a little bit of money there from that side of things. But we went to Animal Kingdom and we did get up in the morning, but we weren't knocking on the door. I think everyone was like super tired. And so even though we were kind of up by 7:30, I would consider that a sleep-in morning for us, a little bit more relaxed. Again, made breakfast in the hotel room, kind of just had a very easy morning getting into things. And so we actually got to Animal Kingdom around 11 a.m. as far as kind of when we ended up getting there. So we didn't rope drop it or anything from that side of things. We got in and we headed to the Gorilla Falls Trail and started with that area. We have a lunch reservation, and so we were trying to kind of kill some time before lunch. It wasn't quite enough time to do a whole lot of stuff, and so we felt like that was a good opportunity to be able to go see the gorillas and see the animals. The kids did get the booklets for the Wilderness Explorers, and again, for especially I would say with Animal Kingdom, if you're going to try to make it a full day park or you're spending like a time there and you do have kids, I do think that's a great activity for the kids to do. It gives them something to focus on in each of the different areas. They have a nice little like interaction, a learning opportunity, and they get a sticker. Kids love the stickers. And so particularly Emma and Jackson, I think, so at this point we're like at that, 6 and 9 age, they're just like perfect for that and just really enjoyed that side of things. And so we'd kind of gone through and done that. And then we still had some time to kill before lunch. And my husband was like, everyone's still tired from yesterday. So he went and got everyone ice cream because he was like, I think we need some sugar for these children to kind of help them start their day right. So we started the day at 12:15 before our lunch with ice cream and dessert for everyone that we had kind of over there. And then we had lunch at Tusker House. And we had it was about 12:30 reservation. Again, I went ahead and talked to the cast member ended up being very local for where we live. We're in the Chicagoland area, and the cast member is there on the student program from our local community college that services our area. So that was really fun. So I was like, oh my gosh, College of DuPage, tell me about that. And found out that they lived like the next town over. And so again, kind of a fun, just little experience is great when you get some of those kind of connections to home and people that know you and know your area and stuff. But she was also able to work with their team and accommodate us to be able to put our reservations together and get us all at one table at Tusker House. And we, at this point, my husband, or I guess at the beginning of the trip, my husband and myself, we bought annual passes for our family. We're going to be doing a couple more trips this year. And Tusker House on Thursday for lunch is one of the deals. Right now there's a special dining opportunity at 6 restaurants where you get 40% off of your bill.
Which is a huge discount.
Huge discount. So our discount at lunch was $178, which is insane in my mind. It's just crazy, especially because I think the Tusker House is a really great experience. I think some of the restaurants I was looking at, they're at Disney Springs, and I'm like, oh, they're a little bit less popular. I get that, or they're probably not filling up. And this deal only is like Monday through Thursday, so it's not not things. So it's really particular. But we've done Tusker House breakfast. We had never done like a Tusker House lunch or dinner, but it worked out with this deal to be able to take advantage of that, and ended up being really good. And at this point now, so we're now like on our third character experience for the week. Again, this was a heavier week than normal. I think we normally will do like a meal, but not always a character meal. We had more this trip, I think, just because of the way certain things worked out of wanting to do certain things. And like in this case, we only booked this to take advantage of this. I don't know that we would have otherwise, but because we felt like the discount was so helpful. The good thing about this one is Matthew started warming up to some of the characters. And so he allowed Maddie to hold him and go up and take pictures with all of the characters at this. So he still wasn't touching them or hugging them or doing anything like that, but
He didn't do Donald, but he did Daisy and Goofy and
Mickey.
Yeah.
So that's
So
progress.
it was progress, right? And so I think that was helpful, getting to him get a little bit more comfortable from that side of things. So that worked out really well. After that, we went over to do Avatar. And this one, a slight bummer because Emma was actually excited to be able to do this ride and ended up being like half an inch short. And, you know, safety first, of course, we would never want to push it. You could tell the cast member was like, oh man, I wish I could let you, but like clear hand could fit in between the head and the thing, right? Like none of us were trying to push it from that side of things. We had a little communication mishap at this point because my mom had taken Matthew to go do River Journey, and we were going to like kid switch and do all this different component, but then Emma wasn't tall enough. And so Monica took Emma, and again, just adult communication. And also the Wi-Fi is not good at Animal Kingdom, or the cell service is not good at Animal Kingdom. You have to be on their Wi-Fi. I think this is important for people to know. I don't think anybody's carrier, we're on two different carriers. I don't think anybody's carrier works good at Animal Kingdom. So make sure you're on the Wi-Fi. But we had a miscommunication in the not tall enough. How are we moving things around? All of us thought that Monica was going to try to catch up with my mom and drop Emma with her and then come back and meet us. So we waited for her in the queue, but at the front, Monica basically was like, whatever, I'll just pop around the next time with you guys. It'll be fine. And I'll go. And so she took Emma and caught up with my mom and did the River Journey. But we ended up like basically standing there for 15 minutes that we didn't need to be standing there, thinking she was going to come back. I mean, the cast member, even at the front of the podium, tried calling the podium at Navi River to like see if Monica, like, to, you're just sitting here, you're like, there's 1.5 million people. There's no way that this is, but I just thought it was so thoughtful. She was like, well, let me call over. Maybe something happened. And, it was just hilarious. So we ended up going and doing the ride. But just like timing after that, it wasn't like convenient to get people to go through again. We could have used the rider switch and took advantage, but again, we had already spent 15 minutes longer than I think we all wanted to in that area. We really wanted to do the safari. Emma and Matthew were getting tired, and so we didn't end up utilizing that rider switch and getting people back on a second time. We decided to just head over the safari, and we did stand by for that line. And, at this point, basically it was posted 40 minutes. I do use the Touring Plans line app, the Lines app, to kind of get a better sense of timing on that. It said it would be 23 minutes and it was 25 minutes. So it was like that ended up being right on from like an expectation basis. And so we all did the safari together. And then at this point, so we've had lunch, we did Avatar, we've done the safari. So at this point it's 3:30. And this was a really just not great planned day in the sense of like timing of lunch and stuff, because for Matthew and naps, and then it's like the end of our trip. So Emma's also tired. So Monica and Paul decided to like just cut it at that point. Matthew was tired, and so they wanted to get him back down to do naps. And so my mom also was kind of just tired from the week. And so they all ended up leaving after the safari at that point. And so then it was just my husband and I and the kids at this point at 4:00. We do have couples date night tonight that we have going on. And so we basically headed over to Everest, and my husband and I just sat and relaxed and had a drink, and our kids did single rider on Everest. And how many times did you guys go through the single rider line? Do you remember? I think I recall
5 or 6.
5 or 6 times. And so
For the single rider line?
For the single rider time. So they were
the longest, it was the last one, and I think, but that was only like 5-6 minutes.
Yeah.
And so.
But I have a question, Madison. Does that make you nervous at all to do the single rider line?
No, because I did it last year, and like 2 years ago, like when I was tall enough for it, we did it as a family a couple of times, I feel like. And then last year, me and my brother did the single ride over and over again. And so normally we get put in the same car because we're not like next to each other, but like we'll get put in the same train. But there was only one time where we got separated into different cars, and it worked out because I was in front of him, so I was like able to wait for him to end. But we've really not ever been separated that much before, so.
Okay, well, you got a lot of rides in.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they were averaging like 8 minutes between like line, ride, and back out again. I'm just getting through. And
Because the ride is like a quicker ride. It's not one of the, it's kind of like Tron. It's like one of the quicker rides.
you feel like the people are always very nice when you end up sitting next to random strangers, right?
Yeah. Everybody at Disney is like really nice, and like a few people like to talk and stuff. And then there was one lady who did it too, and she did it about 3 times. And so she was also in the single rider line, but so it was fun to talk to her and stuff
Yeah.
because like she also did it and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
So parents are sitting for what, an hour having drinks while the kids ride?
Yeah, I mean, so it ended up being like 40 minutes. And, I made a joke because I had texted my husband. I was like, I'm at our normal spot. Like the kids are doing single rider. And I was like, how funny it is that we have a normal spot. Like they can tell the kids like, oh, we'll be where we normally sit to wait for you while you do your single rider. But there's a little cart that has an umbrella that's not actually a cart. It's just like a stage piece that's like right outside of the Everest
A lot
area.
of people don't really know about it, so that's why it's normally open and
Yeah.
you guys use it.
Yeah, so there's normally never anybody there, and it also has fans that blow in both directions. So I don't think anybody realizes, but it's like a wonderful cooling location. And then with our kids, they do have T-Mobile, they have the T-Mobile like watches, and so we could see them sightline from when they would exit to like getting back in the line again, and we just send us a little thumbs up every time you get off the ride. And so we'd be able to kind of just see them, keep an eye on them and track them from that side of things. But I would say it's like my husband and I do say all the time, if there's a safe, not to like over safety-fy things, but I would say if there's a place that you're going to feel safe to let your kids gain a little bit more independence, cast members are so helpful. People in general, I feel, are generally so kind and so helpful. And we feel like it's such a good opportunity for the kids to get a little bit more comfort. We did a lot of pin trading with the kids early on because we felt like it would help give them a level of comfort of having to go up and talk to random people and talking to cast members and like gaining confidence with that. And so it's kind of just been nice. And we feel like we can kind of really see that independence kind of coming up within them in that experience. So it's cool.
It's one of my favorite parts about Disney World.
Yeah. So then we had to ruin the kids' evening and basically say we have to leave. So yeah, they weren't thrilled. We kind of headed out of there closer to 5. And at this point, I think that night Animal Kingdom was closing at 6, but we had reservations at 6:45. So we needed to get back and be able to change and get out for the night. And so, Maddie, what did you guys do with Grandma that night? Do you remember?
I think we went on the boat. I think we did boats or we did swimming. I really don't remember that much, but it's either we did more transportation or we did swimming, which I'm pretty sure we did Oh yeah, we did transportation. So we rode the boat, the Skyliner, and I think that's it. But so we took the bus to Hollywood Studios, and then we took the boat over to, I don't remember where, somewhere where you can get on a Skyliner.
The Epcot.
Yeah, Epcot, I'm pretty sure. And then we got on the back to Hollywood Studios, and then we got in line for the bus, but then Matthew needed to use the bathroom, and so Grandma quickly took him around because it's like a walk, a little bit of a walk. but they went to the bathroom, and right as they got back, the bus pulled up like 5 minutes after they got back, and so it was like perfect timing.
Yeah,
So
that was great.
yeah.
So they did that, and while they were doing that, Paul and Monica and Jeff and I went to Epilogue. And I don't know how many people listening will be aware Epilogue opened last fall. It is at the Four Seasons, which is in the Golden Oak area. It's a speakeasy experience, essentially, is the way that Epilogue works. And so you have to book it in advance. And so we booked it and we didn't tell Paul and Monica. I had heard about it and I knew that it would be something that would be like right up their alley, that they would enjoy an experience like that. And so we had booked it, and I think I can share a little bit without giving too much away, but essentially it's like you get a text message, you check in, there are clues that take you to a couple of different like spots to eventually find the Epilogue location. There is no photos allowed in Epilogue at all, and so there are no pictures of the inside or the drink experience, but it's a prepaid experience. So you pay when booking, includes the tip. And so you literally go in there. Your prepayment includes 2 specialty cocktails, and then they have popcorn to be able to kind of munch on. But it is not like it's not like a dinner experience, like it's a bar experience. And so we had a great time. That was a lot of fun. I think, cocktail wise, our first round, we all found something that like really spoke to us and is like a normal cocktail that we would drink and we really enjoyed. The second round, I think it was a little bit more of trying to try some of the different things that they have. So we all maybe did something that we normally wouldn't do. We're okay with it, but it's not huge like cocktail people. It's like expanding your horizons on high-end, very crafty cocktails. I don't know, maybe we would have stuck with stuff that we felt really comfortable with, but it was a fun experience nonetheless. It was just really interesting. But then we ended up just grabbing dinner at the restaurant that is right there afterwards. So we had a 6:45 reservation at Epilogue, and basically we're there until 8:15. So it's not like a quick in and out type of an experience. It takes some time, and you're definitely not rushed by any means. It was weird. I like knew that it was prepaid, but I still felt like weird, like not getting a bill or anything. So like we didn't know, do we just get up and leave? So it was like a little bit of that. But it is like when you're done, you just get up and leave, and there's no tipping or anything. Everything's all included. So you just kind of do that and head out. And again, at this point now, it was so late that it was easy just to pop over into the restaurant that was right there, and they sat us immediately. It's a Thursday night, so it was not busy by any means. And we just basically did like appetizers that we shared amongst us, right? So it was late at night. We basically just needed a little bit more food to get into our body, and basically did that, and we're there until 10. So 10 o'clock basically, and then headed back to the hotel that night. So
And that was that.
And that was that. So
the next day was Friday, June 6th, and you had some more golfing, but also changing hotels.
Yeah. So this day is like checkout and leave day. And this actually ended up being a little bit of an adventurous day. So Monica, Paul, my mom, and Jeff were golfing at Celebration, which the town of Celebration's golf course. So the Celebration golf course is actually very close to Animal Kingdom Lodge in particular, because it's on that side of Disney property. So it was a 10-minute drive from our hotel for them to get to that golf course, which is the same as it is to get to the Disney golf course. So it was just a really convenient location for us to be at, to be able to jump on and for them to get out. This is probably the 3rd trip that they've golfed on the last day, and I've packed up the room and kind of had the kids with me. I think we've just gotten into a nice groove. I really enjoy it. For me, mentally, it's like I can just pack everything up, have it good. They usually all worry about all their clothes and stuff, but then I'm just getting all this stuff. And when you have a 3-bedroom with a kitchen and we've got owner's lockers, like it does honestly, like it takes time to pack up. And so I was able that morning by 8 a.m. I made breakfast, had pancakes. We had pancakes and eggs and everything out for the kids at 8. And the kids do a great job of helping pack up, but then I would say like keeping themselves busy. They spent a lot of time playing games and on the patio. Emma and Jackson love the pool table. So I don't know why in 3 bedrooms at Animal Kingdom Lodge they have a pool table. but they do. That's just like the thing. I don't know.
It's just for fun.
It's just for fun. It's just for fun. Which is not untrue. And it was fun for the kids. And so that ended up being great. They were just hanging and playing on the pool table and stuff like that. And so basically everyone got back from golf, and the timing on that essentially it's like everyone was getting back right at 11, and we had 11:30 reservations at Topolino's, which again is another just tradition we like to do. Last reservations at Topolino's, they're always very easygoing. And so we were pushing it a little bit, like checkout's 11. I called down for luggage pickup knowingly later than I should have. And I again knew this, but just time got away from me. So I didn't call down till 10:40. So that was a little late to get like right around checkout time. They basically are like, you really need to call like at least 20 or 30 minutes before you actually want them to come and pick up the luggage. And I missed that boat a little bit. We would have liked to have been like for sure down there ready to go by 11 o'clock to get picked up. So it ended up being about 30 minutes. They came and got the stuff at 11:10, which was fine. Both vans were down and ready to go. They come back from golf. They finished the round quick. Paul and Monica had a nail in the tire somehow. And that's not even going to the golf course because Jeff drove to the golf course. So between moving their car from the parked location at Animal Kingdom Lodge to then coming to the drive-through to pick it up, got a nail in the tire. And Paul and Monica's plan was to leave immediately after Topolino's and start driving back home, and they were driving everybody. So that threw a wrench in things. Now it ended up being a slow leak, so there was a like somewhat okay from that perspective. We still loaded both the cars and everything up. We all got in the cars. We all drove to Riviera and then dropped everyone off. And originally Paul had made an appointment at a Toyota dealership, but then we brought up the fact that there was the on-site at Disney. They have the car care center that you can go to that's right by the Magic Kingdom Chicken Transportation Center. And so they ended up canceling the Toyota reservation and just driving there just to kind of see because it was close. And so we all went up to go do the Riviera thing. Paul drove his van over to the car care center. The guy was basically like, I've got a couple cars ahead of you, but we can absolutely look at it and take care of it. But I don't know how long it's going to be because we got to kind of address a couple of other things. So I think at that point it was like frustrating, annoying of plans are not going the way they're supposed to, but took it all with spades. Paul grabbed a lift back to Topolino's. The timing of that ended up, I mean, I think it's good he went to the car center because the timing, they moved through really fast, right? And they were able to answer his question and he was able to get in the lift. And he actually was on his way back to Topolino's. We had like just ordered our food. By the time we like actually got there and got seated and we were running late as it was like kind of chaotic, but just the timing ended up working out. So then, and the server again was really accommodating and really helpful and ended up like putting in an order of food for Paul. So like when he was on his way back up, like we had all been served, but the food came out basically. He was able to come back, meet us up at that point, and there was food for him. And if you're there at the end of this experience at Topolino's, I think their last seating is like 11:45 or noon. Like it's like 11:50 maybe, like right before noon. But so like they're not in a rush to flip over tables. They kind of are just letting everybody do their thing. They're really making sure everybody's got enough food, that nobody, wants anything, make sure all the characters have been able to get around. And so, all the characters came to the table twice in the different experiences from that side of things. And so despite it being like really chaotic and us being late for our reservations, oh, I guess, yeah, we were late because I thought the reservations were, this is where it was. I thought the reservations were 11:35. They're actually like 11:25. So I was off from that side of things. But again, just like, despite a million things probably feeling like they didn't go right between like timing of luggage and the car and this, we ended up having a really nice, just like easy breakfast. The cast member was fantastic. We all ate well and relaxed and were able to kind of just chill. And at that point, while we were sitting there, I got the notification that our room at Port Orleans French Quarter was ready at noon. I've never had that happen before. And I'm sure it's just because we were staying one night, like it just happened to work out that it all worked out. But that ended up being really helpful because then we had a room to be able to go to. And so with Paul and Monica no longer being able to leave right away and stuff just changing up. And so After Topolino's, my mom got a lift and she was headed back to the airport to fly home. So she kind of was out of it. Then Jeff like basically did 2 runs of people from Riviera to Port Orleans French Quarter, which those are relatively close to each other. So it wasn't a terrible drive. And because our room was ready, Matthew was able to lay down and take a nap. And Paul kind of just hung in the room with him for a while. And then Emma and our kids were able to put on swimsuits and we just went to the pool. And we're like, we'll just relax and we'll hang at the pool and they can hang with us all day. They can hang with us for the day or for whatever they need to until we figure out what the situation with the car is. And so that's what we ended up doing. So we were at the pool and probably for an hour or so of being at the pool, Matthew had fallen asleep and Paul got a call from the guy that they went through. The tire was a really easy repair and they fixed it and it was ready to go. So that ended up being not nearly in the long run as rough of an experience as I think it could have been. The car service area worked great. It only cost Paul $40 for the patch on the tire. However, it all worked out, I'm not sure, but they were really happy. So basically, it's like he took the lift back, got the car, picked it up, came back, and they kind of loaded the car and just headed out that night. At this point, was like, I want to say 3:30, essentially, that they essentially were heading out. And then our kids were swimming and kind of just relaxing from that side of things. And we didn't really have any huge plans for the night. So at that point, Jeff and I looked just for a quick dinner reservation at Disney Springs. We knew it was Friday night, so we were like, we'll try to get there early, but we're very flexible where we would be willing to eat that night because we're really not particularly picky. But I was able to get a reservation on Open Table for Morimoto Asia, which is one of our favorite restaurants at Disney Springs. We love it.
Yummy.
Yes, we all love it. And so it was a 4:45, which is basically right when they open for dinner for the night. So we went back to the room, we changed, we took the boat over to Disney Springs, and we pretty much walked straight to Morimoto. They weren't quite ready to seat us, and so we stopped and got in line for what? Do you remember?
Gideon's cookies.
Gideon's Cookies, which was not doing any standby or callback at that point, or they weren't doing a callback at that point. So they basically were like, it's like less than a 10-minute wait. If you just get in line, you're good to go. So we got in line and we bought some cookies. And by the time we got out from cookies, our table was ready at Morimoto. So all
And those
really
are so close together. So it's a great combo.
Yes, it all worked out perfect. And I always like getting the Gideon's cookies, either like at the beginning of the trip to kind of have out as like snacks, we cut them up until 6 and people can just grab a bit. But I think everybody knows about Gideon's cookies, but if you don't, I think one of the biggest things, not only from the fact that they're huge, is that they stay moist forever. Like these cookies do not dry out. And so you literally can have them all week long while you're on your trip. Or in our case, we bought them the day before and we brought them home and we still have them. And I kind of been snacking on them like a piece a night type of a thing as we're kind of going through. And I just love that about them, that I feel like they really last really well and stay really fresh. And so from there, we kind of just walked through. We went to World of Disney. The kids each bought a souvenir with some money that they had for this trip. And then we got on the boats to come back. Timing wise on the boats,
it was perfect.
It was perfect. Why was it perfect?
So it started to rain. It started to light rain when we got on the boat, and then it heavy rained, then it light rained, then it heavy rained. And then there was lightning in the area when we were like 6 minutes away. And so there was probably one more boat that was going after us. But so, because then they had to shut down the boats and the pools and everything because there was lightning in the area. And so when we got that, so it was just like perfect timing when we got back and stuff, because otherwise if we stayed probably like 5 minutes longer at the shop, we wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
And stuff, but
you wouldn't have had a boat option.
We
So
would not have had a boat.
does that mean you're walking through the rain from the boat dock to your room then?
So fortunately, because I don't, you know how lightning is weird in Florida and so are storms. When we docked, it stopped raining. They were still under a lightning thing. So everybody that was Port Orleans Riverside had to either walk or go get bused to Port Orleans Riverside. The boats were not going, but there was no more rain. Also, we had a Riverview room at French Quarter and our room was like
first floor.
It was first floor at the corner. At the corner by the boats.
It was right by the pool and the boat.
Yeah. So I don't think we could have asked for a better room location. We were really happy with that.
And the bathroom looks like it had just been refurbished.
Oh yeah, I think Riverside or French Quarter. I think French Quarter just went through refurb,
It
right?
did.
I
Just
know.
finished.
Yes, and I think especially after coming off of Animal Kingdom, gosh, did those rooms feel beautiful. Again, we were on a corner, so we had extra window. We had an extra set of windows. The bathroom was clean. It felt really clean, real sleek. Power adapter wise, they had the USB-Bs, not just the regular USBs. So just the upgrading throughout the entire room. We were really happy with it. It felt like there was a lot of drawer space and stuff. So you can just tell that they were really intentional with that refurb. And I felt like it was really good. And then that night we basically went and grabbed some Mickey beignets at the Scat Cat Lounge, but we were all pretty tired from the week as well. And we were hoping the pool would open back up, but by 8 o'clock it still had not opened. And so
we watched a movie.
we watched a movie in the room.
And I got to stay up later because I wouldn't fall asleep, and I wouldn't fall asleep after the second movie because me and Mommy watched 2 movies.
So it was a movie night for us in the room.
It was fun.
Yeah. And then the next morning we were leaving. And so there was nothing particularly exciting. The next morning we literally got up, got packed. The kids and I were flying again because we just got really cheap flights. So we had a car picking us up at 8:30 in the morning. We woke up at 7:30, got all our stuff, walked out, grabbed a thing of beignets to go to have at the airport.
And we got there 45 minutes early.
Yes. We were there quite early. So
not bad.
Yeah, not bad. TSA was great for me going back through. We do have pre-check, but I know like when my mom went back through Friday afternoon, she said it still took her like 30 or 45 minutes to get through even with pre-check. We were going at this point, we got there by 9 a.m. and there was one person in front of us. We walked through.
On a Saturday.
On a Saturday, yeah. So we had a lot of time to sit and relax before our boarding for our flight. Like Matt said, we had about 45 minutes of just kind of sitting and waiting before boarding even started. So.
And did your husband make it home the next day then? Because he drove.
So my husband left basically like right after us by 9:30. He though had to stop for an extra day in Kentucky because he lost his fantasy football this year. And this is totally not Disney related, but essentially the punishment was that you had to do what is referred to as the Waffle House or the IHOP challenge. So very quickly, what that entails is you have to spend 24 hours in a Waffle House.
And every waffle you eat takes an hour off the 24 hours.
Yeah, so every waffle you eat takes an hour off the 24 hours. So my husband got to Kentucky, stayed overnight, woke up the next morning, went to the Waffle House, and sat there the entire day. And he consumed, do you remember how many waffles Dad had?
11.75 waffles.
11.75. So he had almost 12 waffles. So he ended up, that means he was in the Waffle House for 12 hours. And over the 12 hours there, he ate 12 waffles. And he texted me like 3 hours into it and was like, these are way more filling than I think I think originally he was like, I'll eat 16 and be there for 8. And that's probably a reasonable expectation. And then he was like, I can't eat that much food. And so he spent all of Sunday in the Waffle House in Kentucky. And then that by the time he was done that night, he just was so exhausted. He didn't want to drive the 6 remaining hours home. So he stayed one more night in a hotel and drove back, and he got home around noon on Monday. So yeah,
it's an interesting disruption on the way back.
So good thing is he's a fan of Waffle House. There's none by us in Chicago. So it is always like a tradition to grab breakfast. So it probably could have been worse.
Yeah, I was going to ask why he chose this time to do it, but I guess if you don't have Waffle House near you, then that's the easiest way.
And he really is not a fan of pancakes also. And so to go, we have IHOPs by us, but the thought of him going, he was just like, I will save it and do a Waffle House and eat our waffles over eating pancakes at IHOP. So
me too. Fellow pancake hater. Can't handle it. I'd rather eat waffles all day. So, all right. So then that was that. So overall, sounds like a fantastic trip.
Yeah, it was really very good. We had a great time.
And you said you're annual pass holders because you have multiple trips planned. So what's the next one?
So we have a weekend in September that we've got we'll hit up a little bit of food and wine for that one. So it's like the 3rd week in September that we'll be doing.
And is that who's on that trip?
So that trip is just myself and the kids. So then we have a couple of them that are planned for just our immediate family that are coming up. We've got 3 in the next upcoming year to make it
work. You'll do little trips with just your immediate family, but this big trip with everybody is a tradition, right?
Yeah, so we do this the first week of June every year, and we've been doing it this way with everybody in the family for at least 7 or maybe 8 or 9 years. We've definitely been doing it since before Paul and Monica had kids. I mean, so Matthew's birthday is at the end of June, and he's going to be turning 3 at the end of June. The year that Monica was pregnant and due, obviously she was not able to travel, and Paul didn't travel with her. But we also went and we took Emma with us, right? So Emma was 2 at this point, and it was just like, we were like, we totally get you can't come, but we're gonna take Emma with us because this is the family vacation and this is how we do things, and you're good with that, right? And again, we're all close enough that, for them to let their, at this point, Emma would have been 2 or 3, right? To go spend the week with the rest of us in Disney and do that was kind of a no-brainer. And so we love it. We love the tradition, and the cousins are all great and hang out and are used to it. We all live in the same town. I think we said Chicagoland, but we literally all live in the same town. And so our kids grow up together, and it's just a lot of fun for us to be able to have this annual trip.
So do you have that booked already?
For next year?
Yeah.
We do not yet have it booked. We actually were talking because we are planning to do a cruise for 2027. And so we were talking about, do we take a week off? At one point we were talking about renting our vacation points for next year to then use that money to help pay for the cruise. We've also talked about doing national parks because we always do Disney, about maybe doing something different. So
since Jackson would be in 4th grade, we get to go to the national parks for free.
Right. So potentially taking up. So that the next 3 weeks we're kind of figuring out, but there's a good chance that for the first time we might not do Disney. We will still do something.
We
but
can go to Colorado.
We're gonna go to Colorado. So we're having some conversations in the next couple weeks to kind of solidify that out. But because we're planning on a Disney cruise for 27, we've kind of put out there that maybe we'll hold off for 26. So we'll see.
I had it in my after chat notes to ask you if you guys had ever done a cruise because it's so good for groups. So let's talk about that in the after chat. But yeah. I appreciate you taking the time, Megan and Madison, to share about your trip. And I'm glad it went so well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was so much fun for us to be able to do this.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that trip report. We did keep talking on Patreon for the after chat, including the fact that I wanted to ask Madison her thoughts on some of the bigger rides and how she ranked them. We have a ranking of the thrill rides on the website, and we post it on social media, and people often disagree with us, but our ranking is very closely aligned with what most kids think, but not what most adults think. So that's why I was really curious to ask her. And she gave me her thoughts, as well as Megan, who shared information about their future travel plans and that kind of thing. So you can find that on Patreon right now. That will wrap up this episode of WDW Prep To Go. For more information, please check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website, wdwprepschool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 467. Until next time, I'll see you on the site.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.